All right, let's get this thing started. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name, for those of you who don't know, because I know BGS shared this on his channels last night, so I think there might be a bunch of folks who don't know me. Though you've probably seen me in and around the panels and in BGS's panels and on Roger's panels and on Charles's panels. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76, my original channel. First of all, please like this stream, please share it, and please subscribe. And thank you to everyone who's liked the stream even before it got started. So I saw the likes started rolling in late last night, but that's a testament to BGS's vast network. I see some folks are already here. Ren L Rated. I don't know who you are. Thank you for being here. Sheet is here. We here. Toya's here. Thank you for stopping through, Toya. JBA, Mega Montana. Peace Good Doctor. Dre WDHT KG, the doc, thanks. And of course, Tasha's here. Welcome, Tasha. All right, so I have some talking points here, and then I'm going to bring my guest of honor on. This is always cool when the master teacher comes through, and I think the master teacher was the very first guest on this channel via StreamYard. So it's always, it's always special when he comes through, and it's always special for me to listen to him talk on other panels, on his panels, and also other elders like Black Uru. I love listening to them talk. Let's see, Mr. Meach says, what up, Doc? Okay, I think I saw you guys on Art of Ibmore's panel last night. I was watching briefly from the cloud, but I couldn't jump on. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, and it looks like many of you do, there are actually 4 other channels. No, there are 3 other channels. I have a sports channel. I have a science and technology channel. That one, I need 8 more subscribers over there to get to 800. Of course, I'd love to get that channel to 1,000. I think that's probably my most important channel. That's just my opinion because of the impact it could have. I'm very interested in the types of things that Dr. Tia Johnson is in terms of empowering Black boys. And I think the STEMs are a way to do that. And that's an intent I have for that channel. I have an entertainment and media channel, my smallest channel, where I cover media, books, TV shows, movies. And I'm also working on my own book, as you all know. That's how I came to YouTube, to create a presence for myself here. A couple of things. First of all, my channel, everything I try to do it with a scholarly and educational focus. So what we're going to talk about today, and the things I've talked about in the past, none of this is to offend anyone, and none of that was to offend anyone. A couple of weeks ago, I don't think the master teacher was a part of this one, but I did a live stream on, I think I called it, Can a Single Man find value in the single mother market? That's a very, very touchy topic, and opinions vary. And when I opened the panel up, opinions did vary, and some people who had never heard those types of discussions before were, of course, very offended by the things that were said. So I just wanted to front this by saying that my intent is never to offend anyone, but instead to shout out to Art Newstall, have more scholarly discussions and talk about things objectively in the abstract. I'm not setting out to single out any one person when I'm talking about these things. So I just want to keep everyone to keep that in mind, especially if you're new. As a content creator, I am streaming this one over to Facebook as well. And there are people over in Facebook who have never heard these types of things before. There are people who've never heard of the Octane Scale. There are people who have never heard of select and non-select. There are people who have never, well, I guess everybody's heard of the high value man right now, but there are people in other spaces who have never heard these things So I would just challenge everyone, especially if you're new, to not internalize everything we talk about, but instead try to look at it from 30,000 feet and just try to look at what we're saying in general and how it applies. So another question came up on that same vein of people not being used to YouTube and the sphere, because my channel is in the sphere, the Black Manosphere. My best friend didn't even know what the Black Manosphere is. Why gather together with people you've never met personally on the internet in hangouts and panels? Why do that? What's the advantage of that? Because again, this is something that's foreign to people who've never done it and people who don't have any experience with it. Well, technology has its positives and its negatives. And what this technology has allowed us to do, it has allowed us to gather and exchange ideas and discuss things that aren't discussed in our families, and also things that aren't discussed on the mainstream media outlets like MSNBC, CNN. You could throw Fox News in there. There are things that just aren't being discussed on those major outlets, probably by design. For example, here, how often on those mainstream outlets do you hear about Black boys only reading at 10% proficiency? That's almost never talked about on those outlets. So that's just the significance of us gathering here for those new people who are seeing this and might think this is kind of foreign and kind of strange. So let's delve in a little bit before I bring BGS up. The Octane Scale and social class. So why did I gravitate towards that, and why did this resonate with me when I first saw the video and I first heard about the principle of the Octane Scale and select and non-select, and now the high value man? Why does all of this matter? I want to take you just really, really briefly back through my history so I can establish why, for me, this is important. So most of you know, I'm from Buffalo, New York. That's our downtown. That's our city hall. And I'm from the east side. That's the east side of Buffalo right there, not far from where my mother lives. Buffalo, the east side is in large part the hood. And I'm sorry if that offends anyone from my hometown, but it just is. And I grew up in a very sheltered home. We weren't out running the streets. And they're just things that I wasn't privy to growing up. And there were things that I had to steadily learn as I got older and transitioned into an adult. And there were things that my mother wasn't equipped to tell us about. There are things that my father wasn't equipped to tell us about. I'm the first PhD in my family, and we don't have many Black Greeks in the family. So, but in Buffalo, we did have Black newspapers, and I did see every spring that they had a debutante ball and they had a cotillion. So those elements were there. My family just wasn't plugged into them. So as many of you know, I went ahead and earned my PhD from the University of Michigan. That's the University of Michigan Medical Campus in Ann Arbor. I spent a lot of time there, 5 to 6 meaningful years of my life. And I recall that immediately after my thesis defense, one of the professors on my thesis committee said, "Congratulations, Anwar, you're now a part of less than 1% of the total population." Okay. I just knew that I finished off my degree. I didn't comprehend and fathom what the late Dr. William Brewster Pratt was talking about. But after I earned my degree, he said, "Congratulations, you're now less than 1% of the population." There's a professional context for that, but there's also a social context for that. And as I went on, as I moved to the DMV, where I live now, I started to realize that there were certain social contexts to me being Dr. Dunbar. And there were certain social expectations with me being Dr. Dunbar. And the irony is that my father, whom I love and I appreciate everything he's done for me, we had a little. My PhD was a source of friction for him because he urged me to keep it a secret, particularly from women, because he was afraid of gold diggers and he was afraid of me being preyed upon just because I had a PhD and because I was a doctor. And I've learned that people are fascinated with the title of doctor. They don't know what the doctorate is in. They could care less. They don't know what it's about. But when you become a doctor, somebody, that matters. And there are expectations with that, such as commanding a certain salary and also, for example, getting a passport. Me and BGS talked about that a little bit in his first visit to my channel. So the Octane Scale and social class. So the social class, particularly as it relates to the Black community, these discussions are not new. I realized that I did write something on my blogging platform about this. This is below in the description box. This essay here, I wrote a discussion about class in the Black community. And I think the basis for that was Lawrence Otis Graham's Our Kind of People Inside America's Black Upper Class. That was a very interesting book for me to read. Again, coming from where I came from, I never experienced anything like that before. I didn't know there was a Black upper class in the United States. And when you move to the DMV, like I have, you run into these kinds of people, and it becomes important to be able to navigate different social circles. And I think Lawrence Otis Graham passed away. I think I read that he passed away somewhere. But Lawrence Otis Graham isn't the only one to talk about this. If you're in the YouTube streets, the field master, Ron Wills, has talked about social class in his millions of videos. Ron has content for men. He also has a woman's channel right now. He talks about this in Nice Guys and Players. I did a review of Nice Guys and Players over on my entertainment and media channel. So Ron has talked about social class and mate selection in a very, very extensive way. As all of you know, the image guy, Kevin Samuels, has talked about social class. He talks about it pretty much every night. He might not say it explicitly, but he talks about social class, and he even mentioned the Octanes this week or the previous week. And by the way, everyone, I'm looking to take a break in August, but I'm trying to finish the month strong. And next week, I am planning to have a discussion on my experience with Kevin and what I think about what he's doing. So I plan to talk about my personal experience, my image consultation, why it was important, and also what I think about what he's doing now and the difference that he's making. It might surprise you, some of the things that I say. So that's my intro. We're about 10 after. That's why I think all of this is important. That's why it resonated with me. And that's why I wanted to have BGS come back, because again, there are people who've never heard of this. There are people who've never fathomed social class. And as I'm sure BGS will describe, he's mentioned numerous times that as Black people, the ADOS tribe, shout out to Nameless Protagonists, we're all shoved together, but those differences exist. And even my mother, when I showed her the Octane Scale video for the first time, she kind of didn't know what to make of it, because I don't think she thinks about the ADOS tribe in this way, though she did point out that one of the reasons she didn't want to move to Atlanta because she thought Atlanta was too bougie. So my mother, even though she doesn't even believe in the Octane Scale, she doesn't know what to make of it, she does have some understanding of what bougie is. And I'm sure this will come up when BGS comes up. BGS did describe my mother as the salt of the earth, because all these passports and fashionistas and shopping at Nordstrom and Bloomingdale's and Macy's and fine dining, we didn't do all that when I was growing up. We just didn't do all that. I told my mother about the passport things and how some of the women kind of vet the men based upon whether or not they have passports. And I remember in a discussion, my mother said, it sounds kind of shallow. And she says that, well, I tried to get you guys, I tried to show you guys different things. We tried to take summer trips to Atlanta every summer because many of my aunts and uncles moved to Atlanta. And that was cool because a lot of kids never go off their city block. If you're from the inner city, families and you have friends and peers who never leave their city. But there's some kids who had passports when they were 7 or 8 years old and were going to Paris and Africa and Asia at 7 years old. So going to Atlanta is kind of like, who cares? So guys, with that, I'm going to get out of the way. I'm going to bring my guest up. It's always a pleasure when BGS comes to my channel. And whenever I see him go up on someone else's channel, I kind of say, uh-oh, the master teacher is here. So the master teacher is here. And we're going to talk a little bit, and then I'm going to open it up if anyone else wants to come in, and we'll just do it that way. So with that, I'm going to bring in the master teacher.
Yeah, well, we start talking about the Octanes, man. it's like opening up floodgates.
Opening up floodgates. Yeah.
One day I'm going to send you my outline, just my outline for the book, right? And just the outline from the book, and this is just not without examples, without case studies or examples, man. It's probably right around 80,000 words, just the outline. So when I actually scoped it out, I said it's going to probably be about 80,000, anywhere from 80,000 to 100,000 words, and that's just the basics. So it's actually really a complex idea, more complex than people actually realize. And every time I talk to somebody, it actually gets more complex. So it's so for people not to wrap their heads around the initial idea, is understandable. But the funny thing is that when I actually talk to people, especially women, and talk to them individually, then they, all of a sudden they get it. But what I want to know really is what initially you saw in the Octanes and why it made sense to you initially, because I'm always curious why people take to certain ideas.
Excuse me. What made me gravitate towards it initially? Well, as I described, I'd already read Our Kind of People. And when I moved here to the DMV, I knew that there were some dynamics going on socially. And I in the dating realm, in the dating market, I didn't understand everything. And I noticed that, for example, for the women in my peer group or my cohort, whatever, I did notice that, as you stated, they were all running around in packs. And these were professional level females. And I did notice that there was a level of exclusivity there in the ways that they operated, in the way that they did things. And I don't know. I just didn't know how to relate to the women here at that time. I didn't, and I ran into the passport thing. We've talked about that. And I realized that they were looking for certain things
for markers,
for markers, for an image,
check boxes,
or check boxes for symbols that, okay, this guy, I can take him around my friends, or he's on my level,
right?
Because that's ultimately, I mean, the traveling is about the experiences and seeing different things, but it's also when they ask you that question, they're vetting you.
Yes. Yeah. The funny thing is when I first came up with the ideas is oh man, how long has it been? 80, I want to say 80, 89. Okay. Because I started going with a young lady, and she was a beautiful woman. My fiance actually was engaged to her for a while. And she would be what I call is a 92 climber. In other words, she came from the hood. She She learned how to type. She started as a secretary in aerospace, and she started to move her way up, through the corporation, but also through education. And she ultimately became a computer a programmer, or what I call a computer CIS major, right? She actually worked her way up. So she was a 92 climber. She would be similar to, if you look at Insecure, to a Molly.
Mm-hmm.
And since I came, since I came from a diverse background, in other words, uh, where I grew up like maybe a half a mile or so from Freeway Ricky Ross, in that neighborhood, right? So everybody knows who he is, right? So that's the neighborhood I grew up in. But the thing is, I had a teacher at one of the elementary schools says, okay, he's a little smarter than the rest, and my mother didn't want to skip me through grades, so the compromise was to bus me to a upper middle class white school near the beach. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so and that's where I stayed from like fourth grade till I graduated high school. And at that school, it was during integration, so it's not only just white people but also Asians, and also the upper class of LA black uh, parents would send their children to my particular school. So it's race, it was class, and all that other stuff. So all the people that you see, like for instance, I think I've mentioned this. Maxine Waters' daughter was in my homeroom, and
Okay. Wow.
now also in my homeroom was Harry Belafonte's goddaughter. So these are the kind of people I was actually mixing with. That some kids were, if you probably remember Kurt Flood, that that uh, that actually sued baseball because he wanted an independent contract as a black man. His son went to my high school, so these are the kind of people that I mix with. So I've always been a part of race and class, and so when I met my fiance, okay, I realized she wasn't used to that world. It was a big deal to her
Mm-hmm.
to actually move up in class, and a lot of stuff that impressed her, it was average to me, even though I was a poor kid from South Central Los Angeles. So, uh, but that experience gave me a peek into how how black people are actually separated, especially women. Women do cluster in classes, and that's something that people don't realize. With college women, what we call hood chicks or ghetto chicks, poor chicks, working class, they all cluster in particular classes. And everybody. Well, I've never dated the what I call the 100 octane or the what I call the baller class or the jet set class, but I've had a girlfriend that was related to those kind of people. I can't mention any names,
Right.
but yeah, but I'm saying that. So I've met them. I've met women that type. I know how they think. So I've basically met or dated all five of those classes at one time or another. So, and I know, and how they operate and what they think about and what's important to them is all different. So that's how I came up with the octane scales. I said, if I notice it, and I notice the different qualities in these particular women, which is initially what it was for, I said, okay, how do I tell men what quality of woman? It's not even about class. It's about the qualities in each particular class and what their strengths and weaknesses are. And that's why I said all five. People think it's a gradation of one's better than the other, and I'm sure you know that because you're in DC. It's not necessarily one's better than the other. They just bring different things to bear depending on what your needs are. Like your mother is, like I said, she would be an 87, which is the working class, which is the bulk of people, which is the salt of the earth. you
Mm-hmm.
know and and for certain people, raising a family, certain people, she would be the perfect wife. And I said those are the perfect wives for most people, because they're all salt of the earth, and what they think about is family and their children and security and stuff like that. Whereas, as you being in the DMV, you go up a couple notches to the 92s, they're partners and not necessarily wives. And so there's a different calculus that you have to do with them. And you have to have a different mission in life to actually be with a woman like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I created it. It sounds complex until you talk individually. Like when we talked, okay, it does sound complex, but when you tailor it to the particular person and figure out what they need, then it starts to make sense. Oh, okay. If with a 92 octane, I get this, and this, and with an 87 octane, I get this, and this. And so the thing is, what's more important to me? These attributes or these attributes? If that makes sense.
Yes. And we're going to come back to that. And I just want to reiterate for the people who are new that are watching this. And BGS says this. You said this at the beginning of the Octane Scale video, which I left below the stream if someone wants to go take a look. You did say that this is not to say anything bad about anyone else. So in other words, this is not to condemn anyone or say anyone is good or bad. It's just these are just some things that some trends that I've identified.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to read a couple of these super chats. Everyone, the super chat is live. My PayPal and Cash App are below the stream as well. Giyagami says greetings to Dr. Dunbar and all. Thank you, Giyagami. Cornelius Bellamy says support for our PhD brothers. Thank you. And DeHaven Graham didn't say anything, but gave the super chat as well. Thank you, much appreciated. And Afro Shop says salute Dr. Dunbar, Master Teacher, and chat. So let me say, so for the social science, I'm a PhD in pharmacology. So for the social sciences and the humanities, I will definitely defer to Dr. Johnson, Gigi, Dr. Ronald Neal. So I just wanted to put that out there. So let's see. So you kind of answered the first question about how you came up with the scale. My second question was, why is it important? And Master, here's the other thing. Why I gravitated towards it.
Okay.
Now I didn't. I'm going to admit I didn't get on the whole insecure craze.
Mm-hmm.
I did manage to watch a few episodes, after everyone else did. But when I watched your discussions about the show, and when I watched Ram's discussions about the show, and you guys kind of argued that art was imitating life.
Right, it is.
I did kind of see, you know what? I know some women like that. I know some people like that, and I know that these dynamics between Lawrence and Issa, those do exist. And again, you look on Instagram, you see packs of women congregating together, and that's okay if they want to do that. But I'm just saying that's something else that I didn't quite understand. And the way you and Ram broke it down, I started to say, okay, that's why that's happening. Okay, this is kind of a universal thing.
Right. Yes, sir. Yeah. When women do cluster in groups. Yeah. Because most guys wouldn't notice it. There's a reason that she'll take you to a gathering and let her friends examine you, because that's her group. Cousin T-Talk calls it the female hierarchy group. And so the rest of the group and the queen bee has to either accept you or reject you, and that's going to affect whether you go forward or not. And even if she accepts you, okay, say she goes against the group and she does marry you, or she does, have a long-term relationship with you, okay, she's going to hear from these women, from her core, her group, constantly about, okay, either I like your boyfriend or your husband, or why are you with him? And that's going to be, the one or two things, depending on whether they accept you or not. So that's how come they, I'm sure you're in the DMV, and I'm sure you've been through that quite a few times, where they introduce you to the group for examination.
Yeah, well, it's that's another dynamic that. And we're not saying all women are like this.
Yes, they are.
But
I am.
That's a dynamic that if you don't know that that's there, you might meet somebody you like, and you might go out 1 or 2 times, maybe 3 or 4 times or 5 times, and then you might get canceled, and you won't know why, and it's because the pack didn't accept you, or the pack said you weren't good enough.
And then this is in all classes, because I've been examined by 92s. I've been examined by 85. So I've gone through this. I've gone through this just about every class and every girlfriend that was in the class. I've actually been, introduced to the group for evaluation, for lack of a better term. So, well, that's just one dynamic. But anyway, you said you have bullet points that you want to get to, certain questions you want to ask, and so before we get too far in the weeds.
Yeah, well, they that thing, that right there, the group approving of you, that's something in my family circle that was never discussed. So I think for me, in terms of why the scale is important to at least keep in mind, is just navigating the terrain and understanding how some of these things are working, and understanding that they're at play. Because you might, in your mind, you might have done everything right. You might have a degree, you might have a clean record.
Yeah.
You might have all the check boxes, but if that group doesn't accept you.
Right. Yeah. And that's important. It's especially in the Black community, because we people don't like it. It's actually a gynocracy or matriarchy, right? The group is probably more important than the parents as far as acceptance or not acceptance. Okay. In other words, younger women want their father to accept you, but in the Black community, especially as far as these groups, okay, her core group is probably more important than the actual approval of the parents. It doesn't make sense, but yet that that's the way it is. And I think that's for most women. Normally before they introduce you to the parents, they actually introduce you to the group first, and then the parents afterward. In other words, okay, this is my man. I just want you to know who he is and get your kind of perusals. But the most intense scrutiny you're going to get is from her group. It's because because they're the ones that are going to have to hear her complaints or non-complaints. Okay, and, just like in Insecure, right? Even though Issa was ambivalent about Lawrence, everybody else in her group loved Lawrence, especially the queen bee and the co-queen bee, because the queen bee in her in Issa's Faye group or hierarchy group was I can't remember her name, Tiffany. I think it was Tiffany, and Tiffany's husband was one of Lawrence's best friends. So basically, they all love Lawrence. So they were all accepting of Lawrence, and you could see that even when they were having problems, the group actually pitched for Lawrence.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. You see that too. You see sometimes you have advocates in the group.
Yes, you do.
And either the woman you're talking to, either she'll hunker down and take their advice, or she'll still say, what? No, I don't want to. It's too much. Whatever's going on is too much, or whatever he's doing is too much.
You notice the man that she cheated with. I'm trying to remember his name.
Was it Dro?
No. That Issa cheated with. I'm trying to remember his name. They all hated him. They all none of the group, nobody in the group liked him at all, because he wasn't a college graduate. He was a music producer, and he was music producer / rap artist, and he didn't fit in their particular class. He was a working class dude trying to be a star, but the thing is, he didn't fit in their archetype, what they felt should be in their group. So they love Lawrence, but they hate. I'm trying to remember the guy. I can't remember the guy's name, but they hated him.
The artist, right?
Yeah.
Daniel.
Yeah. You notice none of them like Daniel. None of them like Daniel. And every time Daniel's name came up, why are you with him? What you doing with that hood dude? Blah blah blah. Right? And how come you're trying to pick him over Lawrence? So that it really does give you a peek inside how these female hierarchy groups actually work. And they do right. They they do write from experience, because I actually listen to them, and I think I've been don't super chatted by donated to by one of the showrunners. Okay,
Okay.
I can't swear by it, but but his name is kind of obvious. But the thing is, they do write from their own experience, male and female, which is why it makes the peek into the show. It gives you a peek into how certain types of groups actually think, and you do see all the classes in the particular show.
Show.
Yeah.
Okay. I have another super chat here from Afro Shop. He says, "Salute Dr. Dunbar, Master Teacher," in the chat. Chemistry Idmore says, "Looking forward to the Octane Scale book. I will buy copies for the men in my circle." Yeah. So a quick aside, everyone. I'm going to show everybody this.
Okay.
Then we'll resume. Everyone, I'm a writer myself, so I launched this in my. When I take the month of August off, I'm going to go and post some more stuff here. But I have a writer's blog. So if anyone's interested in writing something, short stories, essays, poetry, whatever, that's there. And I may even write a review on BGS when your book is finished. I may even write a review of your book on the Octane Scale. So just FYI, everyone. What was I going to say? Oh, little joke here. When I wrote I did create the 2 or 3 videos on Insecure. I didn't watch like everyone else, but one of the pictures I used, this picture here.
A mirror. What do you call it? Mirror.
Yeah. I'll just say I've seen that look before, and the shower cap, and that one kind of stood out.
I'm not going to even ask you why. So one day we're going to get Dr. Goodbar drunk, and we're going to ask him why. He'll tell.
Yeah. I'll leave it out to Charles when the cigars and liquor.
Yeah.
So this last one, and this is where the whole idea for this live stream came from. Mm-hmm. And shout out to all the people who are here. I see Edward Anderson has come through. I haven't been reading all the comments, but I'm seeing who's here. Edward, Alonzo. Thank you everyone for coming through. Oh, and thank you MLR for the Cash App. Thank you MLR. So Master Teacher, so in my circle, mm-hmm. I found that the principle of having an octane scale, mm-hmm. that offends some people.
Okay.
It's usually females, and I'm just speaking from my experience, everyone. It's usually females, and mm-hmm. they don't like the idea of something like that. And they've asked me, well, are you putting me into some kind of calculation, or are you doing this, or are you doing that? Mm-hmm. And I had to say, no, I'm not. It's just about understanding the terrain, understanding how some of these things work, so that you can move more effectively about in your ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to ask you, I mean, I have some theories as to why it's offensive, mm-hmm. But I wanted to ask you, because you said the majority of the women in your circle
understand it immediately,
and had thanked you for it. But I wanted to ask you, why do you think it would be negative to some people?
Okay, because because one of the downside of it being an octane scale and put a number on it, right, instead of a name category on it, is because people think in hierarchy, right? So 85 they think 87 is better than 85, and 92 is better than 87, and 100 octane is, that's the goal. That's the goal for everybody. Everybody should want to be 100 octane, the baller class, fly out, all that kind of stuff, right? Without understanding the positives and the negatives to each class. So they look at it as a hierarchy. So women do not like to be thought of as being in a lower class, a lower hierarchy. I don't care who they are, right? They all, if you told every woman that she was in a 100 octane class and she was the baller and she's going to meet rappers and, entertainers, athletes and billionaires and stuff like that, she wouldn't have a problem with it. Thing is, a lot of women don't like to be pigeonholed or actually put into a particular class, even though it fits. But and some women will basically push back against it until you start explaining it, and you start asking, okay, not only what do you do, what's your background, and what are your friends' backgrounds? So give me your 5 best friends, and what do they do? And I would say, like 9 times out of 10, have a similar background, similar outlook, and similar cues and similar check boxes. Okay. And once you explain that, they don't have a problem with the octanes.
Okay. I think, going back to what you just said, I think that, yeah, there's anxiety over being put into
being rated. No.
being put into a specific group. I've heard that, we're all different people and we all have different stories, and
we think we do.
It sounds judgmental. I've heard that.
It is. It's all of that. And the thing is, we and this is something I learned from being a Gnostic, because we've been taught to focus on differences, right, instead of similarities. And to work together in a group. Okay, human beings, 90% of what we do, at least 80 to 90% of what we do is similar. Is exactly the same, right? Use the bathroom with the clothes we wear, the foods that we eat is within, we're going to do a little science here. Plus or minus 3%, you know that is all pretty much the same, right? Plus or minus 3%, it's all pretty much the same, right? Same thing is the way we organize our governments, organize our street, our roads and stuff like that. It's pretty much the same. Okay, so we're far more similar than we are different. And when you talk to people about the similarities, they find out that in their class, they're far more similar, because the same women look at you, and there's certain markers that they're looking for in you, right? There's certain boxes is you as a doctor have to check for their class. They don't mind categorizing you or evaluating you according to a particular class, but women don't like to be, they like to be thought as a singular individual, that I'm not like anybody else, even though women, or even more than the men, are actually less individualistic than men are. They're less than, they're far more congruent. They're far more slimmer than men actually are. Especially black men. Black men tend to be more individualistic. They tend to try to break out. Most black men, especially men that want to rise above, they tend to be sigmas, which is not really adhering to a hierarchy. At some point, there's a little bit of sigma in every black man that doesn't appeal to hierarchy. That's how come I call black men, getting black men together, like herding cats, because we have all these individual mindsets. Black women are far more organized and far more coherent and far more cohesive than we are. But the thing is I could talk to them, and like I said, I could talk to just about any woman, and within like 5 minutes they would be agreeing. Yeah, we do. This is what we do, and yeah, we do cluster in groups like this, and we do cluster in these particular hierarchies the same way that you talk about. Because I'm sure even in the DMV, there's not too many. So what I call the 92s, or the corporate class, are going to be down in the hood with the hood chicks partying on a regular basis.
Well, no, but you did you did create a follow-up to the Octane Scale, where you did talk about there is a segment of women who work in corporate or in office settings who do go back to the hood.
Yeah.
You did talk, and that's one that one of my friends said she was taken aback by that. Like,
well, yeah, because that's what I call climbers, and this is something that Ram asked me about. Okay, because I know it because I was engaged to one. Okay, a climber. Okay, because you come from a poor background, and because the United States, America and the West basically gives you fluidity to move up in class. Okay, through work or through education, right? And most women do through education. So you take a woman that grew up in the projects, say just for instance, Washington, D.C. I don't know what the project is. Grew up in the projects of Washington, D.C., right?
Mhm.
And she did well in school, and she went to say she went to Georgetown. She got lucky. She got a scholarship to go to Georgetown, right? So she's with these upper class people, and then she manages to get into corporate America. Okay, either big government in DC or corporate America because of where she went. The thing is, guess what? She's imprinted on guys that were in her neighborhood. So she's in college and she looks at Dr. Dunbar, and you're, even though you're salt of the earth, right? Your PhD, okay, he's kind of rigid and stiff, and he doesn't have the hood swag, right? And she kind of defers to these particular guys because that's the guys in her class and professionally in her circle, a female circle. She knows that you're more acceptable. The thing is, she's imprinted on guys that are from the hood, that a little bit rough, maybe the guy with the tattoos, and that's where the problem comes in, because even though she's elevated herself in class, she still is still clinging to say like so-called lower class values. I don't really like using the term, but say hood values, for lack of a better term. And that's where the angst is. So why do you get a woman with a master's is working that's making $150,000 a year working in the corporate office, and she gets into her Jetta and her Mercedes, and she goes down to the hood, and she's got this hood dude, this baby boy picking her up, from work, and it doesn't match. And the thing is,
Nope.
until you look in her background and said, okay, first thing is, okay, babe, where you grew up at? Well, I grew up in the projects. Bingo, makes sense. You're imprinted on this particular guy, and those are the guys you like. And the same can be true for men. That there's athletes, man, that come from the hood, and LeBron James, look, he married. Okay, she's not bougie. She's pretty, but she's not bougie. You would never put LeBron James's wife out as a debutante. She's not that. She's from the hood because that's where he grew up, and that's the woman that he imprinted on. That's the woman he married. So he kind of keeps her out of sight, okay, a little bit, because she doesn't mix well with the group he has to actually do business with. So those are exceptions, and if you find out where people grow up, uh, uh, some people actually get out of that particular class and they never go back because they didn't like it when they were down there. And
Yep.
some people, okay, I just I wanted a better job, I wanted a better life, but the thing is, I still cling to some of those values.
Yep. I can think of an auntie who claims one of her daughters is too bougie now, but her daughter doesn't want to come back
Come
to
back, yes.
where she came from. And then this dynamic you just talked about, I think that's important because someone like my father, we've had these back and forths about, well, you should be able to find someone down there on your level. You should be able to find someone on your level. He's talking about educational level, but as BGS, as you just described, there are other things that come into play besides the fact that, okay, we're of equal education level.
Yeah, the social background, the social class.
Okay.
I think education is more of a business class, or in a sense, rather than a social class. I don't think it can be a social class, but 9 times out of 10, because the way the United States works, America works, it's not necessarily a social class. So what you like as far as a social class doesn't mean it's the same thing as a professional class. Like I said, even in your, even in where you work and the people you work around, okay, you have different social classes, or you can have different social classes. And the thing is, which one do you actually adhere to? Like I said, some people from the hood, man, they never want to come back. Okay, I got my education because I didn't want to be part of this social class anymore, and I will never ever come back. And so the family will call you bougie. It's like coming from the trailer park, and you didn't like it when you're down there and you elevated yourself, and so you don't want to be anything associated with anything down there other than coming to visit the family every now and then, and that's it. That's your only connection to it. But so that's how come that's where the complexity actually get in. Like I said, the octanes are just a guideline, and that's why I put octanes as far as, instead of one being better than the other, what attributes of these particular classes that you will actually see. And it's once you kind of understand what the attributes are and get away from the classifications, then you can kind of understand, okay, what exactly is going on, not only with women but also men. Why would a guy pick a certain kind of woman? And he's he's Fortune 500, and he's an executive Fortune 500 making $500,000 a year, but he's with this kind of particular kind of woman. He said, why is that? And this is why the octanes kind of answer that. Got to know not only what he's doing, how he's educated, but also his background growing up.
Okay, I'm going to read this this comment here from Alonzo Hall, the All-Star Advisor. He says, Dr. Dunbar, I see you styling the pocket square. Yeah, so I'm going to credit, and I'm going to talk about this next week. Master Teacher, if you're not doing anything, hopefully you can come through for that one.
Okay.
I have to attribute this to Kevin. I pay much more attention to my appearance now than before my interactions with Kevin. So that's I have a whole drawer full of squares now, and that's a major one of my major accessories.
Okay, now I ask you this because you're a former student of Kevin. What's your favorite cologne?
I like, and I don't know if he recommended this one, because I did do one of the men in trainings. I like some of the replicas. I'm not sure if you're familiar with replicas. I like Fireplace and Coffee Shop.
Okay.
But I did pick up a Tom Ford recently. So, but I like the replicas, and I like the La Homes. I can't say all the French names. But those are in my rotation right now.
Yeah. And we'll have to talk about it next week, because the reason that and some people don't like him, and that's fine. What I try to tell guys, even guys that are in the in the working class or even the hood class, is that stop looking at certain people as for or against. Look at them as you will look like a hammer or a saw or a tool, or with you like a microscope or a beaker or something like that. They're just tools, okay? And because you're in pharmacology, you actually were chemists, right? Different chemicals do different things, and one's not necessarily better than the others. But the thing is, to get something done, you need certain tools to get something done. And clothes and clothes and shoes and colognes and stuff like that are just tools. You get a different outcome. In fact, we just talked about this last night, right? Because we had to call the Pookie Hour on our Itmores, right? You had three young people that around the same age, and they were talking about hood swag or Pookies, right? And they were talking about the different outcomes that they get as far as attracting women according to what they actually wear. So if you wear what we call the Pookie uniform, which is the at the Nike socks and the Nike sandals, or the slides as they call them, and you wear a wife beater and shorts, you're going to attract a different kind of woman than you would, say, dressed like you. And so if you know that, then you can apply these archetypes in clothes or scents as tools to actually work in your life, whether it's attracting women, attracting business partners, basically being in certain circles. Like you can't go to a debutante ball or go to a Washington D.C. upscale ball in slides and what you call. You have to know exactly what kind of tools to bring to bear to actually be effective in that arena. So I always say look at it as tools rather than whether they're good or bad, because anybody can use them if you know how to use them, right? Anybody can they're actually keys to get into certain arenas. Like I always tell people to pay attention to larger words, right? Because larger words are lexicons and they're like keys. So if if you talk about key tones and side tones to Dr. Dunbar, it'll register. Okay, he knows something about what I'm interested in, and you can actually start a conversation. There are actually keys to get inside certain doors to certain worlds.
That's right.
Yeah, but anyway.
I'm going to read the super chat from the Sneak 2008. Thank you for the $5 super chat. He says, LeBron James' wife is from the hood. There's a video clip of them in the press box watching the game, and she was rolling up a blunt.
Yes, she does.
Master Teacher, did you see, I don't know if you're familiar with Dwayne Haskins. He played quarterback at Ohio State, and now he was here in Washington, and now I think he's with Pittsburgh, but his wife knocked his tooth out.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. So even some of the pro athletes, they're known for women from their hoods, and you see these types of things go on.
That's where they came from, and those are that's like at that particular level. Then class is less important, or where you came from, and then there's certain other metrics they have to use for people above I would say the main four. The main four are pretty much hierarchies, right, or class hierarchies. When you get up to the 100 octane, which is what I call the baller level, then you could be a drug dealer, you could be an athlete, you could be a billionaire, you could be any one of a number of things. If you meet the marker of success and you can do certain things, then it doesn't matter. Basically, you can circulate the same group of women. In fact, I was just listening to a private conversation that we taped maybe a couple of months ago with cousin Tita, who actually broke down the group of women in the 100 octane class. He actually divided them up into five different groups. He called them the dime class, but the 5 different groups and what you get out of each different group. Which is an interesting conversation. I'm having to incorporate it into the book about even at the 100 octane level. There's hierarchies even in there, and you get different things from different women even at that so-called elite level.
I'm going to read the super chat from Black Guru. It says, I learned when I went to an HBCU back in the 1970s that although we were educational peers, that I was far from being in their same social class.
Very true.
This week on the Roger Report, I think it was this week or the last week, Roger was talking about movies, and Glory came up, and then I think I brought up A Soldier Story, and I told everyone that those 2 movies resonated with me because when I went to my HBCU, Johnson C. Smith University, I felt like I ran into that same thing. I was a little more from a sheltered neighborhood, a sheltered home. And then you had some guys there who were from the streets. And then when you put everyone together, things can get pretty interesting. Because they see you a certain way. Look at this well-spoken, reserved guy, and we're from the streets, and it's very interesting when you put people from different classes together.
And then you got the Jack and Jill Bougie class.
The Jack and Jill Bougie class. Yep.
Yeah.
I have another super chat here from Michael Ross. Thank you. And I have a super chat from Ebony Knight.
Everybody's showing up.
Master Teacher, you bring the crowd. Everyone, please get the likes up. Hit the like if you haven't. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe as well.
Yeah, because we probably have a lot of people that don't normally frequent the channel. Go ahead and give the good doctor a like and subscribe. Get the numbers up for him.
Yeah. I want to go back to Kevin and talk about ranking systems, because I think this folds into the Octane Scale, because I think it's a similar dynamic. But before I do, I want to tell everyone, at happy hour in DC, I think that restaurant is closed now. I was told I was bougie because I was sitting there drinking a glass of Merlot, and a woman told me I looked like I was bougie. And I said, okay, you can deduce all of this because I'm sitting here drinking a glass of Merlot. But we're always looking at each other with these qualifiers and through these lenses. Yeah. And I was at another happy hour at an establishment that wasn't so nice. And I was talking to a woman, and she told me that I sound like the type of guy who likes to live around white people. These are the things that you run into. These are the ways we're looking at each other. These are the ways that we're interpreting each other by the way we look and the way we speak. So Master Teacher, so ranking systems, because the Octane scale is a version of a ranking system, and the high value man thing infuriates some people. You know, another content creator, the old man, let's call him the old man. He launched an attack on Rom's select versus non-select thing.
Okay.
Why are we so averse to ranking systems, do you think?
We're averse to ranking system when they don't work in our favor.
Okay.
When they're like select and non-select work. If you're a select guy or so-called select guy, you have no problem with the ranking system. Okay. If you don't make the cut, you know, just like in basketball or in sports, if you don't make the cut, then people that don't make the cut are upset at the cut, where the line is drawn. And that's what I would usually find out. If you're in the in group, you're fine with the ranking system. If you're on the out group, then you're not fine with the ranking system. Same thing with the women. If the women thought they were Beyonce level, they wouldn't have a problem with the Octanes. But the thing is, if you're an 85 or an 87 or even a 92 trying to get into the 100 Octanes, you're gonna have a problem with the ranking system or the divisions instead of seeing them for what they are.
So it's about feeling excluded. It's about feeling like you're not good enough.
Yes. Which is why, I mean, I picked the Octanes is because it gives you a clearer picture of a system, because people can relate to gasoline. Even though if you actually read what octane is, it's just one gas is just a little bit more refined. It's all the same gas. One just a little bit more refined so that the car cylinders don't knock. That's the only difference. You get a little bit more octane in each one because the timing of the cylinders and stuff like that, you need to get some of the impurities out of the fuel. Like aircraft run on almost pure diesel, almost pure raw gas. They don't need all the refinements. So you take a jet that travels like 600 miles an hour. It doesn't need to have an octane scale. It doesn't matter to it, right? Whereas what a car engine does. So even though it's the same cast, it's just a little refinement that will make the car run properly, even though it's all the same base. But most people don't get into it that far, and so we get into just subtle qualities, you know, at this level. Even though we're all at the same base, but subtle qualities as far as class is concerned. But people don't like it. Okay, the thing is, you are who you are, and if you don't, if you don't like who you are, your social class, you can change it. But the thing is, most people don't want to go through the work to actually change your social class, because that's another learning curve. So most people want their social class to be at the top. Same thing with the select and non-select, or same thing with the street guys versus the so-called educated lames. Everybody wants their particular segment to be on top.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see. Julian Brown says, salute, great info. And thank you to Stack or Starve for the $20 Cash App. And thank you to P. Arma for the $5 Cash App. So thank you all for being here. And I think, BGS, I think that's all I've got. I think, again, none of this, and BGS said this at the beginning of his Octane Scale video, none of this is to say anyone is good or bad. It's just, I think there's value in understanding. There's value in knowing. And I think that for a lot of us, for the family I came from, which I think my brother called us lower middle class, from the east side of Buffalo, you assume that, okay, once we go ahead and get a certain amount of education, it'll be a smooth ride. But there are some other things you need to understand. Some of that I'm going to talk about next week when I talk about my experience with Kevin and what I think Kevin's positive effects are and what's happening now. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, the thing is what people growing up in a certain neighborhood or certain social class think are normal. Okay, as you grow up. Well, of course, I live in a cul-de-sac or a gated neighborhood because that's what you grew up in. Whereas if you're from the hood, that's far from the truth. So growing up a certain way shapes your worldview, which is why it's important. So once you get out of your bubble and you interact with other people, you actually learn how people grew up and how it shapes their worldview. Because a street dude doesn't have the same worldview as say you did, which is salt of the earth, the middle class, and definitely not the same as Jack and Jill. Okay, because so even though, like I said, the ADOS black person is unique because the classes are actually compressed and they all touch each other. That's where the friction comes in. Whereas in the white community, okay, trailer park guy and a guy that grew up in the cul-de-sac or grew up in the suburbs, they very rarely see each other. Okay, in fact, they don't go to the same place or even interact with each other. Whereas in the black community, we interact with each other all the time. You can actually see a hood dude that just got off the street picking up cans and Robert F. Smith going to the same barbershop. It just depends. Okay.
I'm going to read this.
Go ahead.
The super chat by Ray Alexander says, BGS, could you explain the difference between a natural 92 octane, a Tiffany, and a corporate climber 92 octane, a Molly from the Insecure series?
Okay, a natural 92, and this is something, shout out to Kevin Sanders. He actually came up with the term natural, or in other words, a natural 92 is, and you see a lot of them in places like old cities like Washington, D.C., or even Baltimore, or say some of the eastern cities. These are the bougie class. These are people that grew up in comfort and wealth, and where their father was a corporate guy and he made a certain amount of money, and they went to debutante balls and they grew up in very nice neighborhoods. They when they got to be 15, 16 years old, they got the nice car. Like I remember there was one guy that I went to school with, black guy. Okay, his at 15, his father taught him to drive and bought him a Porsche, a brand new Porsche. Okay. Whereas I got a bus pass. Okay, that's the difference in a natural versus climber. My girlfriend, she came from the Jordan Down projects. Okay, and she had to work and educate herself to actually transcend from hood class to working class to educated to eventually she became a programmer. Okay. So she still has, and that's the friction that we had. She still has some of the hood tendencies, the stuff that she liked, what she liked to drink, her liking to play dominoes and cards, and when she, the jokes that she would like to tell, those still stuck with her. So the hood is still in her because that's what she grew up on, and some of the things that she thinks is funny, some of the things that she thinks is cute, some of the things her worldview is actually shaped by that. Whereas a natural 92 that grew up in a big house, grew up in in a large house and with a curved driveway and a pool overlooking Los Angeles, okay, they have no clue what the hood is and they don't fit. Okay, so there's a difference between growing up in it and that shapes your worldview versus you have to educate yourself and transcend it. So that's the difference between a natural and a climber. Climbers actually confuse, like somebody like Dr. Dunbar, climbers actually confuse them because they've learned how to code switch. They learned the accoutrements because they've been educated. And then all of a sudden when, like Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan till you get punched in the face. Okay, something happens and then they'll switch back to their upbringing. And that's when the fight will start, or they'll do certain things. Like a natural 92, if she gets upset, she'll probably cry and run out. Okay, because she doesn't handle conflict the same way a hood girl would. Whereas a hood girl will throw something at you, or she'll fight you, or she'll get drunk and she'll she'll revert back.
Okay. I want to thank JBA Mega Montana.
Yeah.
Okay, for the super chat. And BGS, those are all my questions.
Okay.
I'll invite some more other people up if they want to
If they want to ask the
You want
question,
to hang around for a little bit?
yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay.
My time is your time, Doc.
Okay. I just also just sent you a little honorarium.
Oh, not. I don't know. I don't know why y'all donate to me. Cause I have to donate to you guys. I would say you guys should keep it because I got it.
Okay. A couple things. So folks, again, these things matter. Over on my entertainment and media channel, I did do a review of Our Kind of People, and this might be that's my smallest channel, but this is probably the most popular video over there. So this is resonating with people. This book,
Yeah.
and what this book means, and I also
You probably need to also review Fraser's book, The Black Bourgeoisie.
okay,
Yeah,
I'll put that on the list. And I've been doing this one piece by piece, Code of the Street. So I went in one direction and went in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
So these things matter.
And basically, if you think about it, both worldviews are actually shaped by the environment that they're in.
Okay. And then one other thing I'll say about Mr. Graham, and I think I saw that Mr. Graham passed away in one of his books, because he also wrote a book about why he got a nose job. And Lawrence Otis Graham, he's from the old guard, black upper class. People were dragging him. I remember at one point people were showing a picture of him and his family on Twitter, and they were making fun of them. So there's this class thing. There's animosity against upper class bourgeois.
It's a long history of because basically the best popular depiction of this black bourgeoisie in class division is School Days by Spike Lee.
Yes.
The jigaboos versus the wannabes. Very distinct class division. That's how he did the movie, right? Yep. He wanted to actually highlight the division between the so-called masses versus the bourgeoisie. And Fraser actually really talks about that in all his books, the differences between, because Fraser was a bourgeoisie, and he always talked about the lower classes and the differential between how the upper class or the bourgeoisie acted versus the lower class. And this actually comes out of from slavery, because the original bourgeoisie were the offspring of the slave masters. That the HBCUs and the colleges are actually built for the offspring of slave masters, right? They couldn't attend the regular white schools, but the thing is, they made a place for their offspring in another educational system, and that's where the class difference came in, especially after 1890, which is the one-drop rule, right, where their offspring couldn't be accepted into a different caste system. They're actually pushed back into the caste system, and that kind of forced this class system together. That's where colorism comes in and all the other ills that we actually deal with. Colorism is actually a class issue. Even though we think it as futurism and stuff like that, colorism is antecedents actually comes as a class issue from the so-called upper class of black people that have more privilege and more access to jobs and education, versus the slave class or the lower class that actually never had those opportunities. And when you mix them all together, then the mulatto class or the upper class has to mix in with the lower class and find some kind of commonality, and that's where all the friction comes in. If you go back to the early 20th century, that's where the paper bag test and the comb come in. Okay, if you couldn't pass the paper bag test or pass the comb test, then you were not of that upper class, because you didn't have the European genetic markers to actually be into that class. And so we've been struggling with that for over 100 years.
Okay. I think I might do, since I went to an HBCU, I might revisit what you just talked about what they were originally intended for, because they're coming under scrutiny recently based upon current events, which is a whole separate topic.
whole thing. But I would have, when we open up, I would like women, because this is about why women are offended by the class. They should come up.
Everyone, I stole a page from Roger. The StreamYard link is actually below this video, so if you click it right now, You can come in. BGS just said it'd be interesting to hear what some of the ladies have to say. Shonda said Lawrence Otis Graham passed away in April 2021.
Oh, really?
And the reason I brought him back up is because I think it was in Member of the Club where he talked about getting his nose job. Mm-hmm. Another level to this is divesting and aspiring to date out. And I think he told a story in that book where at one of his at the Ivy League school he went to, there was a woman he was interested in him, but because even him being high yellow, she wanted someone white. Yeah. So there are levels to this thing.
Yes. Yeah. The ADOS or the what I call it what our class actually, which is Negro, right? The American Negro, man, is a created cast of people, and actually pull apart all the different pieces that make our angst is really interesting, man, and that's why I'm glad I have people like Dr. Johnson and Dr. Gigi and Dr. Neal to help me kind of pull these pieces apart and make sense of them, because we're all over the place, and to figure out why we have certain cultural patterns in amongst our folks, man, you have to go back. You have to go like 100, 150 years, sometimes 200 years back to figure out why we do certain things, and we're still doing certain things.
Mm-hmm. Well, everyone, the link is there in the chat right now. It's also in the description box if some of you want to come up and add to what we said, or some of the ladies want to come in and say what they think about the Octane Scale. The link is there. I'll keep going for another hour and a half, depending upon who comes in. It would be good to get some reaction. I saw Black Uru there. I see the nameless protagonist there in the chat. Shonda, Toya's there. If any of you all want to come up, please come on up.
Yeah, basically, Toya and Shonda, come on up if you want to ask about the Octanes. I know you guys do. Because I actually went over this not only on my men's channel, but I also went over this in my women's channel, and believe it or not, women actually get it understand it a lot quicker than men do, because it's a natural pattern for them. Men, especially Black men, since we have men actually bond on interest rather than class a lot of times, like you're interested in sports and Michigan football and basketball, right? So say you went to a game, okay, you're a PhD, and there's a dude that he's from Detroit, man. He might be the handyman or the postal worker, and you guys sit next to each other, but you guys bond according to interest. And it's less about class. So men, especially Black men actually really are less classes than women are. Women actually way more classes than men are.
Okay. We've been joined by Malika. I think this is your first time on my channel. Thank you for coming, Malika.
Peace,
we're talking about Dunbar. We're talking about Octane. We have a doctor in the house and talking about Octane, so Malika's gonna show up.
Peace to your brothers. Peace.
Yeah. All right. We'll jump in, Malika.
I love the Octane Scale. I love this. I love this subject because when BGS talked about it, he gave a very comprehensive and a very spot-on analysis of where men and women fit in. And when I really listened to, I dated the first three. I dated 85s, I dated 87s, I dated 89s. But I realized, I said, okay, here's where you fit in. I've mainly dated 87s and 89s. And it made me say, okay, this is where the group that you become it, you're a part of. And realizing, being an ex-police officer for 11 and a half years, it made sense. This is the I grew up in a working class family and in Philadelphia, and it was just like, okay, this is where you fit in. And realizing these are the type of women that you gravitate to, because this is the class system, like how you said, it's neither good or bad. This is just what it is. And it's not a bad thing. It's just what it is. You're presenting facts and you're making it very simple. And it shows men and women where you fit in at. Yeah. And makes sense. And if either you want to move up the ladder or up the scale, you're going to figure out where you fit in. But also, even if you go up to that scale, like when you said LeBron James, he moved up. He's a 100 octane man, but he grew up in a certain area of Ohio, and he's attracted to that certain type of woman. That's why he married that certain type of woman. And it makes sense. And I like how you said, just go back and gather the facts. Why is she going for this particular type of guy? What is the type of guy that she likes? Why did Issa go for Daniel? Well, she grew up around guys like that.
Yeah.
Like you said in the beginning, you said Lawrence was a step up from her. In order for her to keep Lawrence, to get back with Lawrence, Issa had to step up her game. And like how you said, for the last year of that show, she had to come full circle. She had to get out of her comfort zone and become the woman that she was. And it's this understanding. And I'm like, now I understand it. I have a question to ask you, BGS. You've been putting on your show the Sister Stephanie, who's been talking about high value men and talking about pretty privilege. And she's an 89, but she keeps evoking everything. Why is that? She knows probably her octane scale, but why does she keep wanting to project that she wants to either get the 92 or the 100 octane lifestyle, or the 92 or 100 octane man? And even though she realizes she can't get that.
Okay. If you listen to her story, there's a couple things, right? One, she grew up in a mixed environment, and she's educated because she's a teacher. She probably has a bachelor's. I don't know exactly what her attainment is. Has a bachelor's or better. She should be a 92. The way she speaks, the way she's socialized. But the thing is, she didn't take that path. She never became corporate, so she's a failed 92. Number one.
Okay. All
she
right.
failed 92. Number one. Number two is she came to Los Angeles because she wanted to get into entertainment. Okay. So the circle she runs with are like 100 octane, right? The entertainment class, the baller class, and so if her circle is a lot of actors, models, entertainers like that, especially female, a lot of pretty women, a lot of socializing, and at that level, 100 octane, which is the arena she's trying to get into. Okay, you're probably not going to get invited to the parties because you got to be 8, 9, or 10 to actually be effective in a 100 octane environment if you want to date. Okay, you're not going to date. She's not going to date in that environment. So even though she's around these people, her girlfriends or her girlfriend group is made up of these particular people. Okay, you don't belong because you don't fit. So they're going to get the dates and you're not. So if you see all your friends going to Hollywood parties, getting flown out, getting certain jobs, getting certain acting jobs, getting, like I said, I think there's one episode of one of her streams. She was in the bathroom, and all of her friends were outside, right? And one of her friends got offered a modeling contract because she's really pretty, right? And when she walked out, everybody got silent. Okay, because you sweetie, you're not 100 octane class. Okay, and since you're a teacher, you're a failed 92. Okay, and you're looking for a certain kind of guy, and sometimes sometimes, man, if you're the bottom of the class that you're in, so you're gonna have to drop down and take guys that you would normally think are beneath you, and that's what her angst is. Okay. She, even as a 92, okay, you're not going to get the upper crust guy. You're not going to get the good looking guy. So if you want a good looking guy, you got to drop down to a lower class. And so the guys that she's getting are lower class guys, which she complains about. The thing is that, okay, at your SMV, if you want a guy that looks a certain way, those are the guys that are going to be attracted to you. Okay, it is what it is, and that's the problem with class, especially with women, with women that operate in a certain circle. That's her issue. I got it as soon as she opened her mouth and she started talking about it. So you don't fit, and you're trying to get guys. You try to compete in an arena that you can't compete in, and it frustrates her. Which, if I were her, I'd be frustrated too. But the thing is, it is what it is, and she doesn't like the attention from lower class guys that she's getting.
Master Teacher, you have a question here, and then you've been joined by the Counselor's Corner. Herb came first, then Alonzo, and then David, and then another gentleman. But this question is for you. Will the Octane book contain a diesel section?
It does contain a diesel section. In fact, I have 5 octanes, male and female, so that's 10, and I have 3 diesel levels in male and female. So all in all, it's going to be 16 sections, and 6 of them are going to be diesel. Because diesel, everybody asks about diesels, and the reason you have to have a diesel section is because the way they work is opposite to the way that the so-called square class. I call the regular octanes the square class, and the way the diesels work is completely different. It's a different dynamic.
Okay. So I will pass the mic to Herb, then Alonzo, David, and then Archer.
Hey, thanks, Dr. Dunbar. Hey, BGS, just a quick question. You had this before. Do you think the Clinton era welfare reforms had a negative or positive effect on the number of women who are actually in these respective classes?
It confused things because what Clinton wanted to do is basically get lower class women off the welfare rolls. So in other words, when I went to school, only 10% of all kids actually went to 4-year colleges, right? By the time Clinton opened things up, college costs more, but the thing is, it opened it up to people, like 30-40% of the people could actually attend a 4-year college. So you basically, you kind of broke down the wall of class, especially educational class, by doing that. So now you have people that are former welfare people, former welfare girls that have bachelor's degrees. Okay, they have the trappings of an educated class, but the thing is that they still carry other attributes from where they came from. So it actually confused things more than it helped. Before, there was actually a very distinct classes, right? It was very difficult to get into a 4-year college. You had to, that's where the being accepted, okay? You had to go through a whole process to get accepted. Like when I got accepted at Berkeley, man, it took a couple of months. You had to go back and forth to talk to people, had to write an essay, you had to submit your grades, your SATs, and all that kind of stuff to actually get in and be accepted, okay? I didn't go, but I was accepted. But the thing is, it was a whole process. And even from the upper middle class school that I went to, which is white, even then, only 10% of those kids ever made it. Okay. So it was a very distinct process. And when Clinton came in '96 with the welfare reform, he actually blew all the gates off of where sometimes all you needed was a C average and a pulse to get into a 4-year college. And that didn't exist when I was coming up. If that makes sense.
No, it does. And it reminds me of how this all settles out now, because like you said, it confuses things. So, and it's funny, I've always been classified as speaking white, even though I come from a impoverished economic background. I tell people, I say, it's just like you said, I can sit with anybody and speak about most things because I pride myself on being well versed enough to do that. But it seems like there's always a penalty for Black men who are like myself that we paid that we just can never escape.
In certain classes, unfortunately, the vast majority of Black people are either working class or below. Okay, it's and Dr. Dunbar can testify that when you for the Black community, when you get to 89s and 92s, it gets really, really thin really quickly. Really thin really quickly, and Black people do not like class. They really don't. Black people think that everybody's from the hood. I don't care, if you're Black, you're from the hood, and that's where we recognize each other. So you can come from a middle class, small town like Dr. Dunbar, and he's supposed to speak like he's from Chicago or DC or Detroit or something like that. He doesn't. And but the thing is, because of our caste system and our color, we think that we're like who said that? We're all supposed to be one big Negro, and we're not. And that's the way people look at it. That's how come educated people that speak well have issues, is because the black persona is a lower class hood persona. And if you don't speak that way or operate that way, then you're not authentic. And that's not true. It never has been, but the thing is, that's what we're perceived.
And I'm gonna cut in there. I think that for parents who are raising their children to speak the King's English, air quotes, as Mr. Z says, I think that's another piece of the puzzle you need to tell them, is that, hey, when you go out and you're talking like this, you're going to get some pushback. You're going to get labeled a certain way. I think that's important.
When I went to work, I was educated differently. So I got into working class. I preferred to work around working class Black people. That was my preference, right? So my first 2 or 3 years, I was called the professor because I spoke, I spoke the way I was trained to speak, and I had to learn how to code switch. I really had to learn in reverse. I had to learn that I had to speak more like the people I was around, and it took a while because it doesn't come naturally. The thing is, the words, you understand what they're saying, but the thing is to actually use it and not revert back into what you were taught. It takes a minute to actually learn that.
Okay. And then the other thing, the other quagmire or the irony of it all is when you go and you become trained in a profession or a white collar career, for example, in a science, you're trained to stand in front of the room and speak articulately, to communicate your data, to communicate your research question, and you're being trained and groomed to talk to other scientists, some who look like you, some who don't. So that becomes a strength. But when you go into other environments, it can become a source of scrutiny. So that's the importance of code switching.
Yeah, and plus in science, you use a completely different lexicon, and you have a pattern of thought that really doesn't mix with the vast majority of people, no matter what color they are. And so that just adds another layer of complexity that you have to deal with, and you have to, and then you have to remember that they don't think like you. What you think about and the theories you come up with, your world is completely different from the vast majority of people, not just Black.
Yeah. So, gentlemen, BGS wanted to know what some of the ladies thought. Do you guys mind if we slip Kareen in before you three guys go?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Kareen, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I just want to ask BGS about if he could explain a little bit more about how like the immigrants, how is the immigrant experience? Would you say the immigrant experience of being working class, is it similar to the 85 to 86?
The 87, 85 and 87. Yeah, the environment that say you're an immigrant, right? And depending on where you grew up, say most immigrants are actually working class. Okay.
Right.
They operate as working class. Okay, they may be in the hood, but they're actually working class people. Right. So, it's pretty much the same. And what I focus on, people that actually grew up in the environment. So, say if you're an immigrant, you come over. Okay, you may be working class or even above working class where you come from, but if you move into the hood projects, guess where your kids grow up? Guess what school they actually go to? Okay, they have to navigate that, and so they're gonna pick up tendencies and socializations from their peers, and they're gonna form bonds with their peers, right? Especially females. So that's gonna stick with you. So it's a little different for immigrants, but I say most immigrants that I've met, they're actually working class. They would be actually 87s, unless they're the rare few that come over, say like African immigrants that are actually upper class, the top 1% that actually make it over. And then they pretty much operate as upper class people here. Say like Nigerians. Let's say, why do Nigerians actually come here and they go to Stanford, they go to like a couple of brothers I talked to Notre Dame, or go to Harvard or something like that, because they were actually the top 1% where they came from. So they operate the same way. So they still operate within that particular class. you know,
Okay.
of where they came from. So say if like you're from the islands,
Right.
I'm thinking, right?
Yeah, I'm
So
from the islands.
so say okay, say you came from the islands, and say your father was the ambassador or worked for the UN, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you come here, yeah, even though you might be in a working class neighborhood, okay, your parents are upper class people. What are they going to push you to do? They're not going to push you to be a working class person. They're actually going to push you to go to school, excel, and go to certain schools to be part of the class of where they came from.
Right.
So it operates similarly. It depends on your background. So
Okay.
so if because I get Nigerians all the time says well, they're better than black people. I said, let me go back to where you come from. Let me go back to Nigeria, and we're gonna walk through the shanty towns and say, okay, prove that all Nigerians are not like this, right? In fact, you're the top 1%. Same thing for the islands. Okay, they got shanty towns in the islands. Okay,
Yes, they
they
do,
do.
definitely.
Yeah, and what the unfortunate thing is that we don't get the broad spectrum of foreigners coming in, right? Only say the upper class or upper middle class people actually make it to the shores. So
Right.
we get a skewed view of what say an island culture is or African culture is because it's broader than that. And
Right.
but we actually isolate on the upper class of people that actually make it here.
Yeah, because like from my I would say my background, yes, we're working class, but we also were rural, very rural, and where I came from,
Hmm.
um, and so our values are very like rural. Like my parents are very like, even though I went to school here, like I came here when I was 6 years old to the States, so I'm
Okay.
very pretty much cultural and
Yeah,
ADOS and
American, yeah. Hmm.
American thing. But my parents was very like, what my friends
So
did, I couldn't do in my house.
yeah, yeah,
My
yeah,
parents is like, no, you're not doing that. you know.
yeah.
So
And you're similar. You're probably closer to what Block Dr. Dunbar is. You're middle
right,
class, or uh, but the thing is, you're salt of the earth. 87
yeah,
working class. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, salt of the earth. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Good.
I'm gonna.
What is your opinion of the octanes? You think they're accurate? They're not accurate?
I
What's your
no,
opinion?
I think they're accurate. I think they're accurate. The way you described it is
Hmm.
accurate. So I it is what it is.
Okay. I mean, you know what the thing is, Kareen? Actually, women get it a lot faster than men do. I think women understand it a lot quicker than they do because I could actually ask Kareen, okay, what are you? You educated?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I have a bachelor's, so I wouldn't say I'm
Bachelor's or
that
better.
educated.
Okay. Do you the women the okay, your not your family, but your best friends, are they similarly
Yeah,
educated?
we all
Okay.
have my closest friends. We all have bachelor's degrees. We all are
Okay.
Caribbean, two
The
parents family. I
corporate.
have like maybe one friend who had a single, grew up with a single mom. That was it.
Okay.
But most of my friends, I'm the like the outlier. They all married, and I'm the one
Okay.
that's not married. So
Yeah. Well, it was even though they're constantly trying to hook you up, but
right,
um, yeah. One thing is, the thing is that yeah, whether you're married or not, women tend to cluster in groups that are similar to them. So what I'm saying is, you're not going to find Kareen or basically hanging out with say a whole bunch of chicks with tattoos and
I
crazy
mean,
weaves. So like,
they have one or two. They have. I don't because my parents was raised us like
I mean,
tattooers. My
I'm,
parents are religious, so
I,
tattoos was like
yeah.
was like no. My mother would have killed me if I came in with a
And
tattoo.
in other words, you don't have Shakari Richardson basically in your
No,
group. Yeah.
no, 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 no.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking. I'm not talking about one or two. Because it's become trendy, you will have upper class women or upper middle class women actually having one or two tattoos in discrete places, right? But they're not going to have full sleeves like Shikari.
Right. One of my friends had to actually have hers removed because when her mother found out about it, her mother her mother, oh my God, she had to have it removed. It
Yeah,
was bad. It was
yeah.
bad.
Yeah. And while we're here, okay, while we're here, in this will take only like a few minutes, right? Um, you and your group, are there markers or check boxes that you grade guys by?
Yeah, I feel like I wouldn't date someone who doesn't have a job. I'm sorry. I think
Hmm.
that's That makes no sense.
What are your requirements? Say you were looking vetting for a husband. What go down the checklist. Give me your top 10. What do you want?
I want him to be a provider.
Okay.
I want him to be
Provider
like,
provider means what level? What income level?
Make as much as I do. Make as much as I do. I mean,
is that okay? Is that north of 75? 75K. Just north of. In other words, above.
Above.
Yeah.
But he could be like he could do 60. I would say I live in New York City, so anything below is it's like it's friggin' poverty.
That's hard.
It's poverty.
Hard. Yeah. Okay. So well, that's you kind of an outlier.
In a different state, I would adjust the numbers. But for New York City, you have to make at least 60 and above. I'm sorry, to live decently.
Should he be educated?
He should be. I mean, he doesn't have to be educated. He could be a plumber, electrician. He just needs to know how to do stuff because like that's one thing I want my husband to do. He gotta like fix stuff in the house. I'm sorry, I can't do all of that.
So you still hold on to your working class values.
Yeah. He has to have. I mean, he don't have to be educated, but he has to know how to do something. He has to have like if he's not have a degree, he has to be a plumber, electrician, something, welder, something like that.
Okay, of your group, of your 5 best or your 4 or 5 best friends, and they're married. What do their husbands do? Are they educated? Bachelor's or better?
2 is educated, but he was in the military, so he's up in upper government because he's been in the military. He has a degree. He's traveled all over, so he has a great job. The other one, he does construction.
Okay.
The other one, what does he do? Oh yeah, he works for the railroad, Long Island Railroad. So that's a good job. Like that's civil service. So yeah.
Okay. So basically, even though you guys are all educated, bachelor's or better, basically you guys have settled down. I would call you guys 89s, even though you guys have working class values because your husbands are actually 87s. So you guys actually operate as 87s.
I mean,
working class people.
I think we all work. We all have to have 2 incomes though. No one is like, I mean, the one that's home, she's mostly stay at home because her husband has like a very good job in the military. So and she lives in Virginia. She doesn't live in New York City. So she's able to stay at home.
Yeah.
But
he came through the military.
New York City, we all have to work. Yeah.
But basically you guys are 87 working class people for the most part, and you actually clung to those values that you came from where you're from with, according to your parents. So you guys are basically you guys are salt of the earth working class people by who you're married to, and how you associate. That's why the group actually matters. That's why even though they have degrees, the thing is that who do you mate with? What are your values when you actually boil it down? And so basically that's where the Octanes actually come in. So a crane for say like a truck driver or a plumber or something like that. Whereas a lot of women would actually require a bachelor's degree. She's actually not like that. So she's more close to like an 87 than a 92.
I mean, if you have a bachelor's degree, what you're doing, like I think is your income level. For me, it's more the income level than the education.
It's more about stability in life. Yeah. So that's 87. Yeah.
Because I have a child too, so I want someone who could provide, help me take care of.
It actually makes sense. It actually makes sense.
Okay, let me get Alonzo in, who's coincidentally from the financial sector, and then David Archer, and then Truth.
Thank you, Dr. Dunbar, for having me up. Salute to you, salute to BGS, everyone else on the panel, and salute to the chat, as well as those who may be watching in the clouds or in the playback. I actually want to speak to a couple of things. And thank you, BGS. Your Octane scale does resonate faster with women than it does men. If I can ask, so it seems to me, because I was confused about the Octane scale myself, it has less to do with physical appearance and a lot more to do with class. Is my assumption correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Except when you get to the last one, which is 100 octane, which is more about appearance and image and stuff like that, because you're dealing in a different realm. You talk about the less than 1% of people, which is the
Okay.
athletes, which is athletes, entertainers, high level CEOs, that kind of stuff, which is jet set class, where appearance really matters more to them than probably any other class.
Okay. I understand. So I have a multifold question because
Go ahead.
I feel I'm a climber, but I'm in a dynamic position because as a youth, I was cultured. So I'm born and raised in New Haven, Connecticut. If anybody's familiar with New Haven, most of the time it's synonymous with Yale. However, I'm from the other part of New Haven that we call it, the natives call it gun waving New Haven.
Okay.
Because that's what we think of, whereas most of the country thinks of Yale. However, I was cultured, born and raised to a single mother who was a teenager, et cetera, et cetera. We've all got, our story. But she would do things like take me to the New Haven Symphony, et cetera. So I was cultured, so that as I went out into the world, go ahead.
What were her parents like?
They were working class. My grandfather, he was kind of crazy, but he was like an inventor. He would invent things. He was trying to be like Joe Jackson. He made my parents and my uncles and stuff do performance theater. My uncle was a dancer in the country, the Alvin Ailey.
That's the component I was missing. Okay, that's why your mother had a different outlook and take you to the symphony. It had to come from somewhere. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so fast forward to about 15 years ago, I met my wife in New York City. Now I felt that she was of a higher octane than I am. I'll give you a background of her parents. Her father most recently retired from Columbia Presbyterian in New York City. He was a diamond cutter in the Diamond District. And her mother was a financial advisor with Lehman Brothers and then Morgan Stanley, most recently Morgan Stanley. So when I met my wife, I was an assistant manager at a dollar store, and she was unemployed at the time. And now she has the job she has. Now she has college degree, obviously, from the pedigree, that her parents are. And it forced me to step my game up when I met them. To enter into the financial services sector, because the field my wife works in, we would do things like go out to dinner and stuff with her friends. And I was working at Macy's at the time, and her friends would be like, "Girl, you need to get you a real man, because Macy's ain't gonna cover the lifestyle we live." And they would say it blatantly in front of my face, and it's kind of hurtful.
They're trying to chase you off.
But so can you speak to that in terms of, because my wife was like, "Yeah, whatever y'all say, I'm happy." And now I'm trying to become that 100 octane man, like Kevin Samuel says. Personally, I feel I'm a failure right now because we're doing 50-50. I'm supposed to be paying all the bills.
Well, the thing is, basically, the 100 octane is not just money, but it's also status. And unless you're going to be like Gordon Ramsay or something like that, you're a 92. Like I was just talking to Jay Bones, right? Jay Bones came from actually graduated from Notre Dame. He worked for the UN, and he said he doesn't date a woman that makes less than $500,000 a year, right? But he's a high level Master of the Universe 92. Okay. So he's not, so those are not 100 octane guys. In fact, Kevin tells you that 100 octane or that particular class are like not normal. They operate on different rules, which we're not even go into right now. But the thing is, what I want to know is why did your wife pick you as a working class guy?
I mean, we talked for a while. We met online, and we just talked back and forth for about 3 months before I even physically came from New Haven to New York.
Have you always spoken this way?
The way that I speak, yes.
Okay, that's why. Okay, because there's certain tells that that women look for. One of your markers is the way you speak. So in other words, you don't speak like a hood guy. You don't speak like a working class guy. So she can work with that. So even though her friends didn't like you, they really couldn't, they didn't like you because you didn't make a certain amount of money. But the thing is, you had certain attributes that were actually of a higher class. So that's why she picked you. Okay. So she saw potential in you because what was she doing at the time?
She had actually just stopped working for Virgin Records.
Okay. So in other words, she saw potential in you, and you were interested in doing the same things that like her mother and father did. So she saw potential in you. She liked you, like the way you spoke. She saw something she actually built upon, and a higher class woman will always try to pull her man up or down depending on where she sits. She always try to bring him to where she is. So my problem is that depending on who I dated, a woman would try to either pull me up to where her level is or pull me down. So I'm like an 89, so to speak, a tweener, which is what an 89 is. So my climber, my 92 climber, tried to change the way I dressed to actually pull me up to actually fit in with her friends and stuff like that. Whereas where my girlfriend I had my children by, right, she tried to pull me down to working class. So women always try to pull you one way or the other. So so it says, say for you, since you wanted to be part of a higher class, you picked a woman who actually tried to pull you up, which your wife probably did, right? Made you go get an education, push you into certain businesses and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
She pulled you up. So in other words, she's a natural 92, right? Because she's born into that class. And so for you to fit, okay, you had certain qualities that she liked, the potential that she liked. So she said, I can work with this, I'll pull him up, which she did. And she picked the right woman because you actually wanted to be pulled up. And sometimes guys are like you, want to stay where they are. And that's where the friction comes. She's trying to pull you up. You want to stay where you are. And that's where the cracks start to form, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was going to pass the mic to David.
No, go ahead. Did I answer all your questions?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I could ask a couple more, but I want to, in honor of giving everybody on the panel an opportunity,
I just want to make sure it makes sense because, we're talking about complex things. And so that's why I asked, does it make sense to you? Because I might have missed something. Well, go ahead.
No, it definitely makes sense. I appreciate it. And, I guess the only other thing, I guess I would rate myself as an 89, trying to climb to a 92.
Yes. Or higher. You're already a 92, trying to climb to a higher level of 92.
Okay.
Yeah. The brothers I've been talking to online, man, for the last week or so since put up the J Bones video, man, okay, Harvard, Yale, Notre Dame, Wharton School, on down the list is okay. Y'all been hiding in the weeds for a long time, man. But anyway.
Man, because I actually called into Kevin Samuels one day when he was asking about being ready for your high value wife, and he called me high value homeless and hung up on me because I'm not making.
But
that inspired me to do better, not to go make a bunch of diss videos. I was like, all right, I gotta step up and.
Well, you learned that by being around her friends, right, and what they said about you. So you already experienced. We already knew what he's talking about was true because you actually experienced it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, let's go to the next person.
All right. So for anyone who doesn't know, there is actually an Octane scale for men.
Yes.
But I'm going to pass it to the controversial counselor, David Lorenzo Glover. Thank you for coming up.
Hey, guys. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we got you. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, brothers, for this conversation. A lot of good points coming across. And for me, all this Octane stuff, I guess I never really thought about it. And me, myself, I grew up in Niagara Falls, 15 minutes away from where I grew up in Buffalo, where Herb grew up. So when I look at status, I kind of lumped us all in together.
Yes,
we were all in the same status, whatever. Broke, you had some blacks, whatever, that might have lived in the suburbs and stuff like that. But me growing up as far as women and looking at class, it seemed like the women with a set of women that I knew, they were more geared toward the street pharmacists. So that's what I was in competition with. And me,
Okay, the street pharmacists, that's why I put them in the 100 octane scale, right? A lot of disposable cash, fast lifestyle, flashy, that kind of stuff. So basically, they're in a different. They're not in the like the first four. They're in a different class. So when you get to 100 octane, it doesn't matter what class you came from.
Well, yeah. So those guys, and I was more into school and went to college and stuff. So I always knew that I didn't have a chance with girls that were dealing with them because of the money factor. Now, what happened when I got to college, met some girls, and because of kind of my knowledge or the way I carried myself, I was able to obtain some of them girls at that point because they wisened up and got, more mature and realized, okay, this isn't the avenue I want to go down with somebody who's been in and out of jail or they got multiple women. So I was given more opportunities. But just to look at this whole scale thing, I'm like, wow. I mean, this is some amazing information. I kind of wish I knew this growing up. And then I would have probably made different choices. Because even when I think about going to college, there were some girls that were kind of low key, all about their books, but those were not the girls that I was going after. I was sort of going after the girls, that my crew, like the ones who maybe dressed provocative, was more of a party girl, would go out, have fun. So, but I don't think that was necessarily my personality. I probably would have chose the one that was in the library in the cut, and studying and trying to build each other up. So I look at all this stuff like it's very interesting. And thanks for your knowledge of that, brother.
Okay, I mean,
David,
go ahead.
That's what I want to say, David. You want to plug your show? I share the counselor's corner in my community chat as much as I can.
Yeah, I know this, and I appreciate that. So, with the counselor's corner, every Monday night at 9, me and Herb, we have what we call an open court discussion. We'll put a topic out there and just kind of run with it. We don't know what direction it's going to end up being, especially depending on the panel members that come on. And then on Thursday, I have what I call the cocktail conversations, because I wrote a book called Cocktail Conversations by the Controversial Counselor. So usually I pull a scenario out of that book and we'll kind of address that specifically. So that's Thursday night at 9. Same platform, StreamYard, on YouTube and Facebook.
Okay.
What's it called? The content? What's it called again?
Cocktail Conversation.
Okay. Yep.
Real quick, I just wanted to interject real fast because BGS, you also asked about my grandmother, and I always like to put this out there. She was a housewife, but she was also an accomplished poet, writer, and a member of the Black Panther Party.
There it is. Okay. That's where your mother's influence actually came from.
I'm gonna give it to Archer. Before I do, I want to say that for where me and David come from, Western New York, definitely for the Ados tribe there, we're definitely all kind of shoved together, and especially with all the that was a Rust Belt. That's a Rust Belt area, so all the industry went out, in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. So we really had to kind of navigate. For those of us who went on to college, we had to navigate getting our, staying on the educational path versus the street elements that were available to us as well. So, Archer?
Yeah. Thank you for letting me on your show. I have a couple questions for BGS, but you did say something in the conversation you had with Allied Advice that really interested me, because I didn't realize this. And when you introduced Octane Scale, I was kind of confused, but I just realized I've dated a lot of 85s and 87s, and I'm a very ambitious guy, and that really didn't fly well. And I know I've always had problems with working with them on a financial level, and I realize now they were really trying to push me back down to their level rather than trying to help me climb. That was very interesting in that conversation. That's just something that just came up in my head. But my thing for you is I would like for you to make it clear that one octane level isn't technically better than the other just because it has a higher number. I hear a lot of the detractors saying, well, why would you put this type of girl as 100 or this type as a 92,
Yeah.
always equating it to the higher the number, the better, or something like that.
No.
Higher means better. Can you elaborate on that, please?
Okay. Okay. If you want to say that higher number is better because it's an economic class, yeah, basically, yeah. The higher you go up, the more money you probably have to make to actually be in that particular class. So that is
more money,
probably
more
true.
problems.
The thing is, more money, more problem. The thing is, but as far as dating and mating, money is not the only attributes that you want to find, right? In other words, say that you're Dr. Dunbar, right? And you're comfortable in your career and the way you do things, and you have your own groove that you have that's comfortable for you. A 92 will actually disrupt that because she's going to try to pull you in different directions, right? Okay, we have to meet this person. We have to like the most common thing is I'm Michelle looking for my Barack, or I am Beyonce looking for my Jay-Z. And now we have a 4,000 square foot house. It's fine, but I now want a curved staircase. I want to double the amount of the house. I actually want a summer house in whatever city or country, right? In other words, they're always looking to actually elevate themselves. A 92 is always looking for the next best thing, which can be a problem if you're not ambitious, right? So the biggest thing about a 92 is they're ambitious. So if you want to be pulled up, you want a woman to actually constantly kind of pull you to the next level or the next level of income or whatever. A 92 is perfect. If you want to be happy with stability, where a woman will not stress you out about doing certain things or attaining certain things, she just wants to be comfortable. Like Corrine is a working class girl, right? Even though she has a bachelor's, right? You put Corrine in a nice house in a cul-de-sac, and with a dog in the back and the fence, take her on vacations a couple times a year, out to dinner, once a month to a fancy restaurant. Corrine will be happy. She won't bug you. She'll live in that house for like 20, 30 years and be just fine, right? Because she operates more like an 87, which is more like a housewife. 92s are partners. They're not wives. Okay. So you have to.
You said that before. You said most of your traditional wives or your more what stereotypical wife is an 87.
Is an 87, working class 87, because their main focus is stability. Okay, 92's main focus is progression. I always want to progress because I'm trying to keep up with my girlfriends, right? Keep up with the next best thing. If I've had the same house for 10 years and I haven't worked on it or improved it or gone to a bigger house, then I feel like I'm falling behind because I want to be this mogul. Okay, that's the dream of a 92, and that can be a problem. Whereas Corrine operates more like an 87. All she wants. My bills are paid. I got food in the fridge. My kids are in school. They're educated. My house is clean and I have it fixed up the way I wanted it fixed up. I live in a neighborhood that's safe, and I'm good. That's so she operates as an 87. It's just an attribute.
Right, and being an 87 is not technically better than being a 92.
No, it's just
nothing better than the others. That's what you make that clear. But thank you.
Yeah, it's just different.
So I want to get Miguel in here. Before I do, BGS actually did come over, I think in the fall, and we did talk about the difference between partners and wives. I did cut that up into 3 parts in terms of our discussion. So if you want to go back and listen to that, just look through my catalog. Yeah. So I'm going to get Miguel in here. He's been waiting patiently. Thank you, Miguel.
Hey, how you doing? Can you hear me, Doctor?
I can hear you.
Yeah, speak up just a bit.
Sounds good. Yeah, no, I mean, very interesting discussion. I kind of just wanted to get involved just because, a lot of what you guys have spoken to is really just kind of been my experience coming up. I'd probably say I'm probably the youngest person on this because I'm 28.
Yeah.
Oh no, bro, I'm younger than you. I'm younger than you.
He's 19. Yeah, Truth is 19.
Oh, okay. Well, I then I'm more on the younger end than with the younger brother as well. Anyway,
no, just let him speak. Truth, just chill for a second.
Gotcha.
Go
So,
ahead.
as far as my background, like I don't come from Ado's background. Like I come more from like a Black Latino background, and
Okay.
growing up, I've had a different, experience just because, if to kind of give you an example, if in America, you know, the ADOS people here, like y'all have had institutions to call home as far as like, your Black Greek organizations and your HBCUs. We don't
Uh-huh.
have any of that, right?
Uh-huh.
And so the only people that I have to look up to were like my grandparents and people in my family that were,
Mm-hmm.
very hardworking people. And like my grandfather's, like my great grandfather, like he was, a captain of the firefighters in our town. My
Your
grandfather was
town, what part of the country?
um, it's a port city, and so it's like the second largest port in our country, our home
Oh,
country.
okay. Oh, okay. Well, you have a different route.
Right.
So like Kareem came from the island. So the class to where you come from is normally the class you actually absorb when you come here, actually carry with you. Well, go ahead.
Exactly. And so, my experience was a bit more dynamic in the sense that like I grew up, I'd say like lower middle class here in the US, but
Uh-huh.
back in our home country,
Hmm.
I'll just say it's Colombia. And so back in my
Okay.
my home country in Colombia, like I grew up like upper middle, and really gave me a pretty interesting like perspective. But it's funny when I hear all. Go ahead.
I'll give you an interesting tidbit, right? When I was young, I played park basketball with Pablo Escobar's nephew.
Okay. Nice, nice.
Here's an interesting tidbit. He used to come to, in the 70s, come to his weekly allowance was like $100 in the 70s. Okay.
That's pretty
He
cool.
come to the park trying to break $100 bill when the working class people fathers didn't make more than $100 a week. So, but that's an aside. Go ahead. But the
Yeah.
thing is, okay, where you come from, okay, was your like your grandfather, your parents, middle class, upper middle class, poor, or how they grew up?
Well, it's interesting just because like my mother didn't grow up with my grandfather, so she kind of grew up with like a single parent dynamic that lends itself a little bit more to like the ADOS women here in the States. And so
Mm-hmm.
by the time that, my grandfather actually came up, he was more of like a financier, and
Okay.
by the time that I was born, like he was already doing well.
Okay.
So I got to experience that. I got to really,
So
you know,
you're upper middle class.
basically, like right
Okay.
now, like I work more in like M&A, investment
Okay.
banking. And
Okay.
with that said, it was interesting just because I grew up like more in the South, so kind of in Atlanta, Dallas type of city, and
Okay.
I went to a prep school here. Like I didn't go because we had the money. I went because we like saw the merit.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to an SEC school, so I went to an SEC school, but
Uh-huh.
like undergrad, I did grad school there as well, and
Okay.
it was
Okay.
interesting to me as far as like that period, just because in high school, like a lot of the brothers that I went to school with, like they were all Jack and Jillers,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
they went to the Botillions, and they did all of that, and like it was just something that they did. Like I wasn't really a part of that, but
Yeah, but you ran in that circle though.
right, and I guess there were aspects of it that I didn't like. For example, I felt it
Mm-hmm.
was a bit like too rigid. Because me, like I still like the classical masculine things, like I don't know, like maintenance work, like working with your hands and
Okay. Well, working class, yeah. But that you can't have that because in ancient Egypt you had to have education, you had to have a trade, and you had to be able to fight this. So you had to have a mix of all of those. So,
right.
um,
So I still
but the
lean
thing,
to that. Oh, I didn't mean to cut you
but
off.
do you do that as a profession though?
No, I don't. I do it just
Yeah.
because I feel like you still got to be thorough no matter in what
Yeah.
environment you're in, right? So
Yeah.
I like guns, you know, like
Okay.
I'll customize them. I'll do all of that. I carry.
Okay.
I'm in a carry state, so
Okay. Okay.
you know.
Okay. Of your 5 best friends, describe them to me. What is their backgrounds? You know, education. What?
Okay. One's a Jamaican engineer from South Florida.
Yeah.
Went to another SEC school. You know, he has I guess multiple levels
Okay.
of
We got to speed
higher
it up just a
education.
bit. It's not a consultation.
Yeah.
We got to speed
No,
up
no.
just a bit.
I mean, the
Yeah.
other one's a CPA. You know, the other one,
Yeah.
tech entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You know,
In other words, you're upper crust 92 masters of the universe. Okay, and that's the class that you fit in. You're not quite jet set, high visibility, what I call a baller class.
right.
So yeah, there's about 6 or 7 other guys that are subs of mine that fit right in where you fit in. In fact, I was talking about Jay Bones. He actually worked for the UN, and basically he was actually actually dated from his country the vice president's daughter. So
Right.
in other words, what we call elite, or even sometimes global elite. But you're high order 92. You're not quite. It has the visibility of the master of the the last class, which is the less than 1%. You know, like a LeBron James or or say like a Bezos or something like that. They have the high visibility and access to lots of wealth like that. But you're just below that.
And that's what I'm trying. I guess, you know.
So what's your question? So what's your question? We don't need your whole, story. What's your question?
Okay. So as far as my question goes,
And in other words, you're still trying to unravel all this kind of stuff. And like I said,
basically, right.
Individually, okay, it'll take us about an hour to actually get into all this stuff to get all the components together so you can actually look at them, right? Thing is, we don't have that kind of time. So the thing is, as far as your class, you would call Masters of the Universe Upscale 92. Okay. And the women that you're looking at basically, when you get to that level, at that particular class, then it doesn't matter what color the woman is. Basically, you're in a certain particular class group. So, in fact, you probably be more, probably wind up marrying more like a Miss Atlanta. That prom queen. So she'd be like an 8, 9, or 10, and she'd be socialized and culture that actually fit into your parties and your social groups. She probably has to have a certain kind of Rolodex to actually incorporate you into certain groups of men. So like, I'm sure at your level, women talk. Say if you have a wife, she talks to somebody else's wife, and you become business partners with her husband. That's the kind of guy that Kevin talks about. That's the kind of guy that you are, which is a different level of high value man.
And that really speaks to, like, I guess what I'm going through right now. Like, like my girl, her parents work in like city council, and we're in a major city, and so I'm getting plugged up, there with those people, and
you're on the right path. So you have a high level 92 wife or a girl. You probably should marry her and use her contacts. That's what she's there for.
Right. Because, like I'm also a tech entrepreneur, and that's what I'm really trying to get off the ground.
You need to be in Austin then.
Right.
Hey.
Yeah. Anyway, we didn't need more.
We're gonna go.
Because we'll be here all day. The thing is,
I have a question.
Real quick. Okay.
Okay. So I've noticed that. So when you mention as far as like what the appropriate partner would be, like I mean, my
you have her. You have her.
I got her. She looks.
She's what is she? She's probably at least a 7. She's probably an 8, right?
She's more like an 8-2.
Yeah, she's an 8. She's cultured. She's probably a natural 92 because she was born in a particular arena, right?
Right.
You probably should talk to the close person you probably talk to is Black Uru, because he did exactly what you're doing now.
So what I notice is a lot of my
real quick
is that
and do a consultation real quick. What's your question?
They deal more with like, you know, the sevens, but I think that they don't like it, and it makes them feel like I've had some sort of rifts just because, you know, I've gotten a certain cut of chick, and so what is it that's kind of going around with brothers? We're like,
you got lucky. You got an 8 in your class level. Okay, for them to get a similar looking woman, they're gonna have to drop down in class, like an 87 or, you know, like an 89 or 87. The thing is, they're not willing to jump out of their class. Same thing that Stefco's having a problem with. Okay, if you want SMV, a higher SMV, a better looking woman, then you have to drop down in class a little bit. Okay, because in your class, the competition is fierce as far as good looking women in that particular class, because they're kind of rare.
Right,
but that's what I would say. That's
so
what I say.
On the head. Thanks.
Yeah. We'll probably you have to become a sub or become a patron. And when I do my patron streams, you can ask all those questions as long as you want. The thing is, we're on Dr. Dunbar's time right now.
Yeah. So I want to thank Sir Anthony for the Cash App. We're going to go for just a little bit longer. I'm going to get in Truth, Smitty, and then Mr. Meach. And then
Truth's a Pookie, man. He don't need to talk. You have a good time last night, Truth? What are your Pookies? The Pookie hour? He's probably away from the mic. But go ahead.
I did go to Smitty next, and then come back.
Okay.
Smitty?
Yeah, I was actually a part of the Pookie hour last night. But I didn't have a question, but I just had a testimony of on like what BGS talks about. It'll be real quick. Actually, BGS, you talked to my uncle before when I was in China, and the type of women that my uncle were into, like my family, I come from a blue collar mill town. Like I literally see the steel mill right now, looking out my window, and my uncles, both of them are square, and they work in IT. So now, like the women that they dealt with, they're both like 92 women. My one uncle, first wife was Nigerian, a part of a tribal chief's family and everything. He met in the UK when he was partying over there. And what we realized, like, we didn't really necessarily like his wives and everything because they were like partners, like you said. They pushed him and they were bossy. That always forced him to upgrade. And we were wondering, why would you marry somebody like that? And he got divorced that one. Now the one he has now is a nurse, has her master's degree in nursing. And when you talk to her, she's the same type of way, pushy and arrogant. They actually just moved, like they only stay in a house. They moved in 3 houses in like less than 5 years. And now they're moving again because she's always upgrading and pushing him. Like I only, like the house they got that last one I was in, it was that 2019. They stayed there, and now they're moving again, and now they're moving down to Florida, and they're actually buying an RV so they can travel around the country, so they can work from home. But talking to my aunts and uncles, that brothers and sisters, like they're 87. They said they don't understand her. They always say that she's bougie. I don't know how you could marry somebody like her. And I used to have that mindset about that. Like I didn't really like them, but until I just started listening to BGS and start looking at it in the parallels. My uncle was able to go to China, start his own business, and help her start her own business with her aid and everything. And he sit down and talk to me. He says, look, my wife may not be the nicest person, but she keeps me on it and keeps me focused to improve myself. He got under him, he got a locksmith certification, and he had 2 online businesses that helped him expand, and he even helped and expanded her business. So it's the fact like that, like she only shops at Louis Gucci and all that other stuff and everything. And you figure out, like, I ain't saying I like her, but for some reason what I figured out between my 2 uncles that are square in IT, their wives like me opposed to my other family because I have a more open-minded feature, and they will take me along to trips to groom me along those lines to improve me. Like I'm an 87 dude. I make like 30,000 a year.
But you don't talk
and I'm a regular. Yeah, well, unless I code switched last night. But it's something interesting that you look at it is that those women are important if you're trying to reach a certain status, that they are more business partners and everything else. Like my other aunt is Moroccan. She speaks French, Spanish, and English, and her brother already lives in the States and I think a doctor up in Boston and everything. So they travel to Morocco like 3 times a year on that budget, because that's what they had to do to keep her family in Morocco connected and have that family connection. And throughout I met so much connections through them that helped me out, that where I'm trying to expand my horizon. So I think when it comes to class, like both my aunts that are blood brother sisters, they're both divorced and everything. They have their degrees and everything, but they're just not that high level. Like they don't understand the quality of buying Tom Ford or buying Hermes. Everything, it's a status statement that they don't understand coming from this background. And I used to think of that mindset, but I understand it now. Most of the women that I truly talk to, because I'm kind of a no man's land, like I can speak to 92s and occasionally 100 octane, and I spoke to CEOs and everything, but I just don't have the money or support about that. So what you learn is how to adapt in different situations and everything. Even that's why people call me squirrel lame or anything, because like I actually left the hood and could code switch and understand. That's when you get to sell things. But when you say that your 92 partner is your 92 wife is more of a partner, she don't know how to cook. Like neither of their wives know how to. Well, I ain't gonna say one knows how to cook, but the other one doesn't know how to cook. All she knows how to do is make money and push them. So it's interesting how the fact that when I started listening to BGS, I can understand. They offered me when they were living in Atlanta. She said, I love you. You have potential. She said, I want you to move down there. I didn't take that job because Atlanta was going through a job desert or a job depression at the time. But they actually accepted me at that point, and that's why I appreciate BGS, because he pointed that out. So you meet people like it's my avatar. I mean,
You're Borgen.
The fear toxin or the freeze. Borgen. You hear me now?
Yeah, Borgen. Yeah. You're still pretty bad. Keep going. Give me a good spot. We got to move it along because we're on Doc's time.
But, so. All right. But look at it as don't.
Yeah.
You're Borgen pretty bad. Yeah, we can't make it out.
Give it to, go back to where you just were.
Okay, we're gonna pass. You're Borgen pretty bad. We're gonna pass it to Truth and then Meech.
Truth and Meech. Yep. Then we'll wrap up.
Okay. Basically, I just had one question on the Octane system. Regarding the So basically, what makes you a female 92 is the education, or is it like the socialization?
Okay, socialization, education, but the main thing to get to where Dr. Dunbar is, it takes certain kind of discipline and drive. Okay, you cannot be unambitious and get to where these women are, right? So their main thing is ambition and drive. Okay, so if you need a woman with ambition and drive, then that's the kind of woman that you need, and they actually exhibit that kind of nature. That just doesn't stop when they actually get their degree. They're constantly pushing to get to the next level because that's what they learn. Yeah.
And this is what they stay as. They don't shift, like, because I know a lot of these women want to get married. So like,
they're looking for they're Michelle looking for their Barack. Okay, they're looking to get to that level. That's what they pin their hopes on. In other words, we're going to work our way up to where you're Barack Obama, I'm Michelle Obama. That's what they're looking for.
One of the reasons, well, I told that story that a woman did actually say that to me at a party at National Harbor a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm. In fact, there was just that was actually said in. I actually probably had to cut it out for you. There's a series on Stars called Run the World, right? And there was she came from Wharton and he came from Stanford. They were actually bankers, right? And she said that the reason they got together is because he was supposed to be her Barack to her Michelle. It's exactly what you were saying.
Oh, Okay, so they want to be like the high level, like make it to the.
They're trying to get to that higher level status. They have drive, ambition, and discipline.
So
And,
what
and
happens when they
that's so
get
much.
there though? Does the ambition go away?
No, it doesn't.
So
I
they
think.
just,
Go ahead, Doctor.
I'm sorry to interject, but I think it's important to note out to everyone that's a much different thing than we love each other, we want to live happily ever after, and we complete each other. That's a much different thing.
Different thing. They're about legacy.
Yeah.
They're about ambition. They're about accomplishments and stuff like that. And you have to know that if you're going to be with a woman or pick a woman like that. So that's a difference about 92s. You have. It's kind of. You're young. You're 19. You haven't really experienced it because at this age, you guys are all kind of figuring shit out and having fun. But when you get to like 25, they'll pop right in.
Okay, is Gabrielle Union one of these?
She's 100 Octane. She's not a 92.
Oh, 100.
She's in a different class.
Okay.
But at 19, you're fortunate that you're hearing this now.
Yeah.
As opposed to 10 years later.
Yeah.
Fortunate.
Yeah.
Or 15 years later when you're like in your mid 30s and why is all this stuff happening? Yeah. The doc. Yeah.
Meech.
But yeah, that's all I had.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello.
What up, Meech?
What's going on there, BGS? What's up there, panel? How's it going there, Doc? Hey, so I have a question
What's up?
here, BGS, about when it comes to the 100 Octanes. Aside from the Beyonces who are she's a performer, she generates her money, right? So she has her own following. The Kim Kardashians, which is another 100 Octane, and perhaps a female Masters of the Universe, if there is necessarily a such thing.
Okay.
Aren't all other 100 Octanes arm candy? Even if they're married.
Yeah, pretty much. They're arm candy. They're arm candy. Two, they have to accept that that they're marrying guys that have options. So in other words, he's gonna have, at that level, he's gonna have a bunch of groupies around him. He's gonna bang, have a mistress or two. He's gonna peruse the field because that's his right, because he's at that level. And
they get in where they fit. They understand the field.
I'll give you an example. Steph Curry and Aisha Curry. All right, what she's upset about is because he's got mistresses and she doesn't have any. Right. But she's married into an NBA family, a 100 Octane guy that's very famous. He's got all these women chasing him. Okay, that's what the women at the level have to put up with. And some women that could be that. So I was asked to failed 100 Octanes. How come we actually cross over and actually become that? In fact, I asked a friend of mine. She's a mogul. She's probably she could be worth between $10 and $20 million. Right. Very, very pretty. Extremely pretty, right? Said, how come you didn't cross over and become 100 Octane and deal with these group of guys? She said, because of shit she would have to put up with. Cheating, non-monogamous, competition with other women, blah, 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 right? She don't want to put up with that. So that's how come she never crossed over, which it takes a different mindset to be 100 Octane, which is a whole different thing in itself. Women have a problem going from like 90 to 100 Octane because women don't really want their man, with every IG model that pops up in his DM, right? But if you deal with a 100 Octane, then you're gonna have to you got to put up with Carrie Hilson, right? 100 Octane chick, right? How come she didn't marry Serge Ibaka? Because she's gonna have to put up with him being him sleeping with other women and other women chasing him because he's an NBA guy. That's how they didn't get married, even though he was probably perfect for her. She's not going to say that. She's not going to say that, but that's the reason. Okay, but yeah, go ahead.
Not a second question. So when Jay-Z first got with Beyonce, she was 100 Octane shit, but her career was nowhere near what she grew to, right? So she was known as she was a Destiny's Child.
Yeah,
she was still 100 Octane chick.
Yeah,
big difference between the Beyonce then and the Beyonce now. So would her status and her connections, of course, and her power now make her a Masters of the Universe and not merely 100 Octane chick?
Masters Universe is a male thing. Okay.
Okay.
Could she be? The thing is, could she be with Jay-Z if she was? Look. I'll give you a Masters Universe type that are high order 92s, which is Oprah and Shonda Rhimes, right? How come they don't have husbands?
Because they're focused on the career. So
Masters of the Universe female, but the thing is, they don't have a counterpart, right? Because a Master of the Universe doesn't want that kind of woman.
Exactly. Right.
So they have to have lesser, so-called lesser men to be on their arm. Okay.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
If that makes sense to you.
No, makes look. As soon as you introduced the Octane, I first heard about the Octane series. I got it right from the jump. I got it right from the jump. I will say this because you guys were talking about the Octane when you were explaining it earlier, and people, a lot of people don't like it because you're saying somebody's better than the other. And I asked those questions in that way for a specific reason, so that people can understand. Hopefully, they'll get an understanding. Is that it's just saying it's like a Ferrari isn't better than a Freightliner. It's not better. It's two different things. They have two different purposes. Try to haul 80,000 pounds in a Ferrari, and they see how impressed you are with it. You know what I mean? So that's all I had. Thanks for letting me up there, Doc.
Thank you. I'm going to read the super chat, and Nameless, you're going to get the last statement before I close it down. Actually, BGS will, but Nameless, I'm going to give you ample time to say what you want to say because it's always very profound. Thank you to Aisa A. Shout out to BGS, he says.
And shout out to the Nameless Pookie.
Okay, Nameless.
He over here trying to out me. You ain't shit, BGS.
I know.
But yeah, I'm probably on the scale. I'm probably peanut oil, so it's all good, fam.
No, you're not. Your pedigree says differently, sir.
Yeah, I got an interesting family history.
Well, you have a history career, man. So, but you don't talk about. We're not going to talk about that though. That's in the shadows. Okay.
See, I don't even know what he's talking about.
Yeah, no, you don't. Deny all knowledge, sir. Yeah.
But so you already know where I'm probably going with this question. I mean, given the advent of the fourth wave, I think it's interesting that this is such a very good, accurate snapshot of the current scenario. But when I look at the potential influences of the fourth wave industrial complex, and we introduce hyperstratification, and we see more and more people identifying more with diesel and 100. What happens to a lot of the middle scales, do you believe? Do you think there's going to be certain pockets where this is preserved? Do you think that this is going to lean more on economics, influence, tech? What are some indicators that you think may affect the scale as it is now in the next 20, 50 years?
Okay, basically, if you start leaning toward diesel and 100, your society is actually going to crack. It's going to destroy itself because it can't maintain itself. Okay, you can't have that many diesels or diesel mindsets out on the street as far as women are concerned for the society to actually survive. It's not going to survive like that. Okay, nobody's going to get married. Nobody's going to have kids. Nobody's going to do anything. You're going to have a destruction of your whole society. So everything always tends toward the middle, towards stability. So that's why 87s actually make up the bulk of your society. And when things get bad or start to crack, it's actually going to just like during the depression, actually garner more toward the middle than the extremes.
So it'd be safe to say that looking at the 87 scale would be a good indicator to anticipate the trajectory that society is going, and maybe be able to deduce some information on policies that are going in place that are intended to maintain that balance.
But the thing is, all societies know you have to maintain that strong middle. If you don't, your society will crack, right? So, if it gets to that extreme where it looks like that, where they'll do what they did in 1933, they start taxing the hell out of the people at the top to keep the society together. Otherwise, nobody will make any money. Okay. The thing is, you only make money inside of a system. What happens when the system goes away?
Exactly.
In other words, it'd be like trying to elevate the tip of a pyramid without the base.
The base, yeah,
it's not going to work. It'll all disintegrate. So
yeah,
which is what the fourth is trying to figure out. How do we how do we advance and still keep a middle? So it doesn't matter. Say if we all became humans 2.0, right? Okay,
right.
You're still going to have an average in the middle somewhere, right? And where your middle is depends on what your society deems as average, right? So like a working class, the median rate is $30,000 a year. That's what you center on. So people will be either to the left or to the right. The extremes will always be the extremes. It doesn't matter.
So what we're talking about then is traversability amongst the different degrees. Then, you know, there may be something far more hard locked in the future than because of what you just said.
And there's your knowledge, skills, and ability will change according to the society that you're in. Say to be wealthy, you're going to have to be highly educated and technocratic, right?
Right.
And those will be your extremes. Okay. Entertainers will always be entertainers, right? That's not going to change. Okay. What do we find entertaining? Whether it's jokes, books, sports, or music's not going away. Entertainment's not going away. Okay. Moguls like billionaires are not going to go away. Those are the extremes, right? Same thing with the poor. Now the poor could actually grow to either become more of the middle class, like say a certain portion of people, say the bulk of people only make $2 a day. That becomes your middle class. That's your average. Okay, it'll be extreme division between the upper and the middle class, but that becomes your middle class. And those societies are always in angst. It takes an outside force to enforce those, force those barriers. Like it'll go back to what used to be the royalty in the serfs, right, or the peasants. Your middle class used to be your peasants.
Correct. Yeah, the idea of the subject versus the citizen.
Yeah.
So this sounds like this is a strong advocacy for what we've been noticing when we have these conversations about lately with transhumanism and its effect on civilization and ultimately culture with the superorganism.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You've been basically the elite cannot exist without the masses. It's impossible. So there's always been a negotiation between the elite and the masses. I'm actually going through the book, The Iron Kingdom, talking about Prussia and Germany and the formation of Germany. There's always been a balance between the elite and the peasants. Your school system, Iron Kingdom.
Rise and Fall of Prussia.
Rise and Fall of Prussia.
Man, they want $200 for that book.
Get it on Audible, get it on Kindle.
I'm gonna go find it.
Yeah, it's there. So it's a long ass book. You might want it on Audible. Okay,
got you.
It's a history of Prussia. Very interesting about your school system. Actually came out of from Frederick I, right? Trying to balance the elite, the corruption of the elite with the needs of the peasants.
Yeah, I got a whiff of a little bit of that studying Clausewitz in his work on war.
Clausewitz,
yeah. Okay.
He came out of that. Clausewitz came out of that the piety movement and the Russian-Prussian movement. So the Prussian Enlightenment.
Right, and he inspired folks like Albert Pike and all of them, just to give some context.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. It's a different. I had to understand it to actually get the history of it, to actually understand Prussia and Germany, because Germany was the second modern. The United States was the first modern state, and Germany was the second, and built on pretty much the same thing, which is an Enlightenment, Protestant values, and technology.
Yeah, my study, because I'm doing my next video was going to be essentially on class, which is why I wanted to come up here and chop it up with you on that a little bit, but specifically looking at Du Bois' idea of the talented 10th and the drama that happens with that. And I'm seeing a lot of these recurring themes happening with the Prince Hall Masons.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of that conversation and interfacing with some of the names we dropped earlier, and that a statement you made earlier today about how when you want to find out what's going on with us currently, oftentimes you have to go back 150, 200 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of patterns that were established by the Prince Hall Masons and the way they had to attain power really set the stage for a lot of the issues we see with the argument between Du Bois and Booker T on what Black folks needed to do to get a class system in order in this particular environment. Versus, you know, expecting to have a upper 10% that's going to run everything in the ether.
And you got to remember, Du Bois is a black bourgeoisie. So he thought that because of their heritage and their training, they were natural leaders, which was more like aristocracy. So, but that was the argument.
Yeah, man, you can't multiply by 0 and expect something. That's all I'm gonna say.
It's actually a very, you know, people do, Kareem, 30K. You're in New York, though. You don't understand it. But the median earnings of anybody in the United States is between 30 and 33,000. 42% actually make less than $18,000 a year.
Yeah, I think our average is Black men. Well, the Black demographic, but Black men in particular, aren't we at like 27K?
Okay, yeah, 27K is your median for a Black man. The median rate for a white man is 33,000.
Yeah, so let's put that into context, folks. You know,
Yeah,
the reason why families matter.
22% of Black men had no earnings in 2020.
And that's another important piece to this entire puzzle. And BGS has created lots of content on that. Well, gentlemen, I have to get ready to shut things down. Dr. Goodbar has to go out somewhere. I knew they were gonna bust out laughing. I knew it.
Oh man, okay. You're not hanging out with the cop today, are you?
No. I'll try to get him sometime soon.
He was at BlurredCon, so he was actually in Virginia. So he was at BlurredCon, so he might be in the area.
Okay, I'll shoot him a text.
Yeah, he's probably in the area. Yeah, because he was actually drinking. He was actually at BlurredCon, so I think it was in Fairfax.
Yeah, that's right there on the metro, right off the metro. So you can get there.
So he's in the area, so you should give him a holler.
Okay, I'll do that. As Roger says, closing statements. Does anyone want to get a last word in?
I was the last up, so I'll go ahead and bounce. You know, thanks for having me up. Octane Scale is important. Y'all folks look at it on the replay. BGS will be keeping an eye on the book. Thanks for the recommendations and the conversation. And to the chat, to the folks on the panel. Os.
Can't wait for the book. Since my
MLR, where you been, man? When was the last time I talked to you?
Go ahead. Who was that? Smitty?
Oh, that was MLR. I thought he was in the chat. Who's got the last?
I'll say so.
Go ahead.
I was going to say it's my first time being on your channel. I subscribed a couple months ago. I usually catch your streams on a replay. I heard BGS talk a lot about you, so I subscribe to all your channels, and I like your content so far, and I appreciate you having me up here. And I'm probably going to head over to Artisans or TSI on Johnson's live streams next. But thank you for having me up here.
All right.
Okay. Master Teacher, guest of honor.
Yeah, you know, I told you it was gonna be complex, man, and he had a high order brother, like, you know, Masters of the Universe, trying to get a breakdown on the show. I said, man, I can't break down your whole life, man, in a few minutes, you know. So, but the thing is, it's once men get the octanes, they get really interested. Women get it automatically, I think. So I don't know why they buck against it. No.
Okay. Well, I think it goes back to, once again, people don't like a hierarchy. They don't like a ranking system.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to feel like they're being put into a box.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I mean, in society, a lot of those guardrails and boundaries have been stripped away. So I think it just it messes with people's sensibilities.
One question I do want to ask you, because I actually talked to a few PhDs, right?
Sure.
Okay. Prior to you getting your PhD, there's a certain group of women that you actually associated with, right? Did that change after you got your degree?
Well, BGS, for me, it's hard to say because I was, quote unquote, a late bloomer.
Okay.
And I mean, seriously, in high school up through college, no social confidence, no game whatsoever. I was a good looking young man, but I just didn't know how to, no mouthpiece, none of that. So it's very, very tough for me to say. And then as I told you guys, I was encouraged not to pop my collar by my father. So all of this is just stuff I grew into over the last couple of years.
Okay. But now that you hitting the boxes, has it changed?
Yeah. I mean, I'm certainly more. I have a keener eye now, and I know what to look out for.
Okay.
What things to kind of I know what I'm seeing now. And again, it's tough to say because immediately after I did MIT, that's when the pandemic started. And things kind of closed down. But I've been making efforts to,
make up for lost time.
My bait.
Okay.
I take my parents more seriously now in those kinds of things. So
okay. All you need is like the 24-inch arms and you'll be set. Huh?
Like Charles. Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you.
I hope this helped, man. I don't know if it helped or not.
Yeah, I think it did. I think it did. It's something that a lot of people don't know about, as we've seen here in the stream. And it was interesting to me that some people actually were rubbed a little bit the wrong way by it. So I thought it would be a nice follow-up. I thought it would make for a nice conversation to talk about why that may be.
All right.
So, and I hope you come back next week when I talk about my experience with.
Okay, I'll be interested to actually hear what your take is. I know some of it, but I'm sure I don't know the whole story. So
yeah, so everyone, I'm going to talk about my experience working with Kevin and what how those teachings were important to me, and then I'm going to talk about it on the personal level, and I'm going to go 30,000 feet and talk about my impressions of what happens night after night over on his channel, because that's what's going on now, and some people think he's doing good work. Some people think he's the devil. So
but you have to look. He'll never. You can't be indifferent to him.
Right.
Which is why he has 1 million subs. You can't be indifferent.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you, Master Teacher. Thank you again for coming back and for your continued support.
Hey, no problem. All right, Mr. Goodbar.
All right. You have a good
stay out of trouble. I would tell you stay out of trouble. Dr. Goodbar does not stay out of trouble. Okay.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for watching. If you're watching on the playback, please like and subscribe. My donation information is below the stream. There are 3 other channels. I'll just show those briefly. Yeah, it'd be really cool if I could get the science channel to 1,000. I know people don't always understand what I'm talking about over there. When I'm talking about Western blots and SF9 purifications and column chromatography, but just like Dr. Tia-san Johnson, he's passionate about the Black boys reading rate. We have to somehow get access to the STEM careers, get more access to the STEM careers, in my opinion. So part of that is knowledge of what's going on and just on getting in those conversations. So
yeah. For anybody that really wants to dig deep into it, join my Patreon. When I do my streams, you're welcome to ask me any question for any length of time that you want to. That's probably the best way to actually do it. Because on Dr. Dunbar's time, I can't really dig into the weeds about your personal life and break down the components of why you dating kind of women and that kind of stuff. It's too complex. So if you actually want to get into the weeds, stuff like that, join the Patreon. And we'll do a stream and talk about it. That's probably the best way. If you want to do it cheaply and for virtually free.
Okay.
All right.
Well, all right, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.
All right.